There's the dog. I love all the books. Can we hear everyone, please?
Hello.
Hey.
Hello, Kevin.
Hey, Carla Vega, I see you.
Hello, good
Thanks
night.
for that post. Hey, Will
Hey,
Torres.
hey, Kevin.
Hello.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, how are you?
Hello, everybody.
Wonderful.
Hello, everyone.
Hey.
Hi.
Hello.
Good evening, writers.
Good evening.
Hey. So we're just letting folks in. Good evening, good afternoon if you're on the West Coast or further out even. Shout out to the West Side. Love the West Coast. Hey, Robert Frezza, I see you.
How are you?
Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Brother D. Bay Area. Hey.
How you doing?
Evangeline. Hey, David. Andre.
Hi.
Tara.
Hey, good to see you.
Arle. Shutting it down last week. I see Lexington. What's up, Lex? Salute, sir. Hey. How's it feel to be 10 years old? Double digits. Getting old, sir. 10 is old. My God. You're almost ready for retirement.
Yeah.
No, Social Security. Like my mother keeps saying, you better get that Social Security, boy. That's what my mother keeps saying to me. I'm like, okay. Hey, Kendra Stahl. Hey, Kimberly Milton. LC. Lujira. Eartha.
Hello.
Regina Head. I see all of you. Tatiana.
Hey.
Wow. Jerome. Judy. Kimberly. KJ. What's up? Angelina. Bushara Reddy. Tony. What's up? With a picture of John Lewis. Wow. Late, great John Lewis.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, Elaina. Lauren. Yale University. Hampton University. Harvard University. You got a few things going on there. Shout out. Hey, Clarissa Mendez. Gabby. Is it Keena? Is that Keena? Babette. Dara. Kim. Hey, Lamar. Richard. I'm trying to see everybody. How are y'all feeling out there? Can I hear everyone, please? Can we unmute everyone?
Hey, Kevin.
Hey.
Hey, everybody.
Hey.
Feeling great.
Hello, everyone.
Hey,
Wow.
Judy. Hi, Eartha.
Hey, Alexander. Mark. How do you say your last name, Alexander? Can we unmute people, please?
They have the ability to unmute themselves. They have
Oh,
to.
hey, y'all, you have to unmute yourselves.
I'm
Hey,
actually
Robin
logged
Curry.
in.
Hey.
I'm actually logged in
Hi.
with my son's Zoom ID.
Melissa De La Rota. I love that name. Zinzale Green. Is it Dr. Price and Dr. Sims Burton? We got a lot of PhDs here too, which I love. What's up, y'all?
Hey, Kev.
Hey.
Wow. Okay, so we're gonna get started in a second. Wow. We got 3 weeks to the election, y'all. How about them apples?
Voted today.
Crazy.
I want to know where my ballot is.
I've been seeing that online a lot. Like, where's my ballot at?
Yeah, I requested it
Well,
like
you know,
weeks ago.
strange things are happening these days, aren't they?
Very strange.
Yeah, I took out my early voting
Okay.
today.
The potato, the meat too? Not the meat, just the potato. Okay.
So let's. Folks are still coming in a second. Hey, Kimberly Milton.
Hey.
Once again, there's a lot of folks on their phones. Thank y'all. Craig Chapman, Minnesota. Hey.
How you doing, Kevin?
Good to see you. Good to see you. Appreciate it. So just shout out, where y'all at? I'm in New York City, in Brooklyn. Where y'all at?
Houston.
Houston, Oakland,
New York.
Michigan,
Yes.
Connecticut.
India.
New York
I
City.
want to say India.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Wow.
Wow. I can't wait to visit India one day. Hey, Lisa Darchi.
You should. You should.
I plan on that. I really do plan on that.
Part of India.
I'm sorry, what?
What part of
So
India?
what part of India are you in?
I'm right now in Delhi.
Wow,
Wow.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Appreciate you joining us.
I was
everyone,
there
Loving
I
it,
see you.
loving
February.
it.
Hey, brother Tony, I see you. Alpha Phi Alpha's in the building. Hey.
Oh,
So a couple of things. I want to get into the meditation first, like we always do. But so it's obvious that we're going to have to go past 7 weeks because everyone's been asking me, can we go past October 27th? So the answer
Awesome.
is yes.
Yay.
I'm willing to do the 4 Tuesdays in Thanksgiving, but we should decide collectively. The first Tuesday in November is actually election day. Do y'all actually want to? Hey, Marion Lipshort.
Oh.
Hi.
Do y'all actually want to do election day?
No.
I didn't think so.
I don't like
I need to take a nap
She's
after that.
voting.
Might need a prayer.
Can we have a collective therapy session on election
Can we
day?
have a therapist here? Are there
Well,
any
the-
therapists
Well,
in
look at
the
it like
group?
this. If it's
It
7
might be a
p.m.
drinking day.
I'm saying.
It'll be 7 to 9 New York time. So even on the East Coast in America, we still won't know the results of the election. If
That's
y'all remember
true.
Yeah,
a few
but
years
we'll
ago
be
with Hillary-
watching.
But we'll be watching. Yeah, I'll be watching too. Some of us might be out there working, right?
It might be a month before we know the results.
That's
I think
true.
it's going to be a month because
I'll be
March.
working.
yeah. So if we don't do
I'll be
election
working.
day,
I'm a coordinator. I'll be working 5 days, y'all.
that's
Oh,
what's up.
good.
I
Wow.
appreciate
You
you.
got early voting.
Yes.
Yeah, I got mine. I just got to get it in. So if we don't do election day, then we'll do 3 Tuesdays, including the last week of November. Is 3 extra Tuesdays good for y'all?
Yes.
Okay, then
So you
the
said
Facebook
yes
group
to
will
the
be
week of
there. How many of y'all are in the
Thanksgiving?
Facebook group now? Just make some noise if you're actually in the Facebook group.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey.
And
Yes.
let's do this. Let's just start. It's already 7:09. There's a lot of stuff I want to cover today.
Did you say yes to the week of Thanksgiving or no?
It's actually I'm saying yes to the week of Thanksgiving. That's
Oh.
a Tuesday. If y'all are good with it,
No.
honestly, I'm just going to Jersey to my mother's house, so it's not. I don't have to go far. But if people are down for the first Tuesday, the Tuesday
Yes.
that week,
I'll cancel my hearing for that night if we're going to meet.
Oh wow. Okay.
I'm scheduling hearings now, so
Wow.
I can skip that day.
Okay. No, I appreciate that. So let's, for those who are new, what we've been doing is starting every session with just kind of a closed eyes meditation. You know, a lot has happened, even since last week. Was it last week that Eddie Van Halen passed, the great guitarist? Was that last week?
Yeah.
Yes.
You know, and it seems like every week's, you know. So let's just start off because we talked in the first session, the first week. This is week 5, y'all. Let's just start breathing in through our noses, eyes closed. Let's trust each other. Let's love and respect each other. We're talking about kindness and compassion and safe space and no judgment in this space. Breathe in through our noses. Let's mute our phones. Let's mute, please, so we can have silence for a second. Just a couple minutes. Just silence for a second. In through our noses, out through our mouths. Think positive thoughts coming in. Get all the negative stuff out of our mouths. In through our noses, out through our mouths.
Have you muted
Kevin,
yourself?
you're muted.
I was saying last week we wrote about something that made us happy that we were passionate about. So let's think positive thoughts as we go through our nose and out through our mouths. Let's just do 3 more together. In through our noses, out together. Positive energy in. Big one out. Let's just do one last one, really big breath in. And only when you're ready, just blow it out hard, y'all. Make some noise with it. Yeah. When you're ready, just start opening your eyes. So, what and why these series of workshops? Because we care about each other, and we're not going to let 2020 dictate, our lives completely. I mean, last week was very beautiful. Arle and everyone who read, there was a lot of tears shed. I think there were necessary tears shed. I've been crying all year. Why lie about it? You know what I'm saying? And I really appreciate the brilliant writing that we've heard and seen these first 4 weeks. People need it. I need it. We all need it. We need community spaces. We've talked about that word community quite a bit. Some of us belong to activist communities. Some of us are in education or scholarship, scholarly communities. Writers need communities too. Why are we doing this workshop? In the beginning, we heard a lot of conversations about mental health, people talking about things that they've gone through in their lives, traumas, triggers, etc. Many of us have admitted that we are, some of us are introverts. Many of us are introverts. Nothing wrong with that. That's why a lot of us write. That's why I started writing. I would write instead of speaking a lot when I was coming up because I just felt more comfortable putting words on the page. Nothing wrong with that. But we also said that we're not going to use words, or we're going to try not to use words like can't and cannot in this workshop, and that we're going to affirm hashtag I am a what, y'all?
I am a writer.
I'm a writer. I'm a writer. If you write, you are a writer. We're not going to get caught up in, well, Kevin Powell has 14 books and I haven't published yet. Nope, we're not in competition with each other like that. We're here to support each other, no matter if we're writing for the first time, as some of y'all said, or we've been writing for a long time. The key thing is let's support each other. A couple of housekeeping things. Please, again, remind people they have to register for every workshop. It gives us a head count so we can know who's here. Yep, we are writers. I love that. Someone just started using the chat room. The Zoom link is always on the registration page. Shout out to the Nuyorican Poets Cafe, Chris Lopez, Daniel Gallant, Jason Quinones. I want to shout out my teammate and assistant, Sadea James. Shout out to Brooklyn folks. Brooklyn always in here hard. New York City's representing. Jersey, my home state, definitely representing. We have a Facebook page. I'm excited. And we got like 170 people or so that are already on this Facebook page. It's Kevin Powell's Writing Workshop. It's a public page, so please encourage other people to join. Everything that we say and do in this workshop is on the Facebook page. The videos of every workshop is there. All the documents, the things that we've shared about poetry, about writing essays, blogs are there. Thank you all for sharing your haikus, your short essays. We're talking about movies that features writers like Findings Forrester. There's a lot of beautiful stuff there. And that page will continue. I'm going to ask you all, I know some of y'all have been doing it, but please, 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 if you can, either in your phones or the way I do it, I still write it down. Please take notes. Please take notes. Please take notes. We'll certainly be, I see a lot of us sharing stuff in the chat room, and also not only are we recording the sessions now, but we're also making sure we document the chat room. So a lot of those resources that people are sharing is there because we see this as an interactive process. I'm just here to be a facilitator. I'm just here to help. Why am I doing it for free? Because I want to. Why not? You know what I'm saying? I don't think that everything should cost people. I think that information should be shared. And I've been blessed by the universe in many ways. And I feel blessed to be able to share what little I know. I hope I know something. I hope some of the stuff I'm saying makes some sense to you all. But that's why we're doing it. And I'm thrilled to be able to go on for 3 more weeks in November. So we agree, we're not going to do election day. Is that right, y'all?
Right.
Is that the group consent?
No election.
Because we might be drinking some wine or some hard liquor or something on that day. Is that what we said? So we're not going to do election day, but we're going to do the 3. We're going to do the 10th, November 10th, the 17th, and the 24th.
Okay.
I need a break in December because this year has been no joke, but I won't rule out doing these workshops again sometime in the first part of 2021. Just let me see. I actually am.
Oh.
You muted again, Kevin.
Muted. Kevin, you muted yourself.
Muted.
Yep, go back.
Muted.
You were talking your mouth was moving for a minute there.
I was saying, I can do the 3 workshops in November. I need a break in December. I need a mental health break. You know, how many of us know what I'm
course.
talking about?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I need one
But
now.
I'm open. The Facebook page, the Facebook group will be there for us to continue to support each other. It's beautiful. I love the diversity of it, the diversity racially, culturally, religiously, spiritually, age-wise, ability, disability, all of it is represented. And I'm not ruling out, you know, bringing these workshops back in 2021, because I know we're not going to get to all the folks who want to read. So we had 3 more workshops and counting today, then I'll do 3 more in November. So we got 6 workshops then. So we should get quite a few people in to read, which would be great. And, you know, we may actually even do some things on Facebook Live. We might just say, hey, y'all, let's meet on Wednesday, whatever date it is, and let's do a Facebook Live thing. Are y'all open to that?
Yeah.
You know, we'll give
Yes.
notice.
Yeah, why not?
Cool. So who wants to recap last week? For folks who are new, what we always do is also kind of go back over what we did the previous week. Just a couple of people, just what did you feel? What did you hear? What are you thinking about from last week that stuck out to you?
I have written down, Kevin, we must take the craft of writing seriously. We must read the best bloggers ever if we're a blogger, and write about what you're passionate about.
Can you say it again, Jerome? Thank you so much. Can you say that again, please?
We
Just
must
slow.
take the craft of writing seriously. We must read the best, if we're going to blog, we must read the best bloggers ever and write about what you are passionate about.
Can I add one more thing?
Yes. Who's speaking?
This is Tara.
Hey, Tara.
He said that perfectly. Hello. We also talked about allowing those essayists that we find to lead us to others.
Yeah.
Yes. 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 I agree. A writer should be a digger, in my opinion. A writer should be a digger. You just keep digging for stuff. I mean, one of my favorite writers ever was Zora Neale Hurston, because not only was she a great writer, but she was an anthropologist. She was trained as an anthropologist, you know, but she just dug for information. And we saw, was it the last year or so that book came out that was discovered, Barracoon? Yeah. You know, Zora Neale Hurston just keeps giving us gifts, you know. Anyone else? Last week, anything stood out to you? Anything touched you?
For me, when you,
Hey, Wanda.
hey everybody, when you took your break and we all came together in love, that was so beautiful to me.
Wow. Yeah.
We're connected forever.
I was amazed at the level of quiet as y'all were. I was watching the faces. Y'all were writing intently. You know, I was like, this is beautiful. Just out of curiosity, because the workshop today is called How to Get Published in Newspapers, Magazines, and Websites. And I have a lot of stuff I want to go through and share with you all just from my own experiences. I've been writing professionally, getting published for 34 long years, y'all. So I've had some interesting experiences getting published. Like I said, I've published 14 books. So I know a little bit about getting published. I want to share with you all. I want to, anyone else want to share? Because I want to dive into some stuff. But again, for those who are new, I don't talk a lot. It's interactive. We go back and forth the way I think it should be. We're all teachers and we're all students. That's how I like to see this. Anyone else want to add about last week?
Yeah, this is Andre.
Hey, AC, what's up?
Yeah, good to see everybody. I think just for me, you know, I shared last week. I shared just a little bit of my story, and I think it was cathartic, right? Just to talk about that, and I think it just leaves this thing. I work with people going towards violence prevention, and what I tell people is that you're an expert because of your experience, and I think that reflects on writers, right? You don't have to be, you don't have to be a Shakespeare, right? But what it is, like, your experience make you an expert, so therefore you should write about it. And again, it's cathartic, it's therapeutic, and it's how we reach each other. I mean, James Baldwin said, I thought my struggle was solely mine until I started reading books, and same thing, writing stories and connecting with people.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Andre. I do want y'all to be Shakespeare. I want you to be Sonia Sanchez, Pablo Neruda. I want you to be, August Wilson. I want you to be Ntozake Shange. I want you to be Arthur Miller. I want you to be better than all those writers. I want us all to strive to be the greatest writers that we've seen. Why can't we?
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Why can't we? Why can't we? That's important. I mean, those folks came before us for us to see some things, stand on their shoulders, but then we can see some things they didn't see. We can do some things they didn't do. Is that right, you all?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, I think part of the challenge for us as well, you know, and again, back to week one, a lot of the conversation, I think probably 50% was just about mental health, self-esteem, how we feel about ourselves. Can we just say together, can we say it together? My voice matters. My stories matter. Yeah. Okay. So let me dive into this again. We're still letting people into the room. This is beautiful. And Jerome, you kind of kicked it off. You kind of said it already. So notes, this is some things for me. If you're a writer, you have to read, and read. You have to read. Yep. We have to read. I mean, you know, LeBron James and the Lakers just won a championship, and LeBron's the first player in basketball history, NBA history, to win a championship with 3 different teams.
Wow.
You don't become a great anything if you don't practice, no matter what it is. And for me, reading is practicing for writers, which is why we have to read. You know, that's why I posted pieces in our Facebook group, like the great piece on Frank Sinatra by Gay Talese. It's one of the best essays ever written and I've ever read. You know, whether you love Frank Sinatra or not, I happen to think he's an amazing singer, one of the greatest singers ever. But it was an incredible piece of writing. I was like, this is how you write, you know? First time I did read Shakespeare, I was like, wow, this is how you make something happen. I'm feeling these emotions. So readers, you grow by reading. Writers have to read. And you have to read a range of things, in my humble opinion. You know, when I was a child, I read comic books, I read sports books. I started reading fiction at 11, like I said in one of the workshops, Ernest Hemingway's For Whom the Bell Tolls. I mean, I read labels, I read signs, I read everything. I just love reading. And I don't take it for granted because, again, my mother has a grade school education. I now help her pronounce words. And my grandmother, her mother could not read or write. I do not take for granted reading. I take it really seriously because just because of my family.
Later, I'm doing a workshop.
Okay, we're doing a workshop. So reading is important. The craft of writing, I just want us to put that phrase in our heads. Number 2, the craft of writing. The craft of writing. Writing is an art form. Even if you are a journalist, and I've been a journalist, you know, half of my writing is journalism, but writing is about the craft. You know, how seriously do we take language? You know, Michelle Simmons-Burton, when you read your piece a couple weeks back, you and some other folks like LaJara, you know, I just was thinking about the beauty of the craft of how you constructed the stories that you read, you know, which is obvious that they read, and they don't just put something down and never come back to it. I'm sure, am I right, Michelle? There's been rewrites and thought to your work.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine fellow writers, imagine building a house and you just do one iteration of it. You're like, it's up, that house is going to fall down. Like, where's the structure? Where's the foundation for it? So reading the craft of writing, writing to have a voice, writing to make sure your voice is heard, writing for the mind, writing for the spirit, and then asking some questions as we talk about getting published.
Right.
First question, how is it what I am writing is unique, original, different? How is it what I am writing is unique, original, and different? I mean, for example, any of us who write essays or blogs, James Baldwin, Joan Didion are kind of like the standard bearers. You know, you hear their names a lot. You see them all over social media, people, you know, talking about them. You know, well, what makes me different from Joan Didion and James Baldwin? I'm not born in the same era as them. I'm a different generation, which means I have a different perspective. I'm a hip hop head. Baldwin wasn't a hip hop head, you know what I'm saying? And so what is it that you can uniquely bring to your screenplay, your play, your short story, your novel, your scholarly work, your poem, your essay, your blog, whatever it is that you write that is uniquely you? And someone said it, it's your experiences. No one has lived your journey except for you. And what we can, go ahead, who wants to speak? I thought someone's gonna say something, okay. But, and as you're thinking about being unique with your voice, original with your voice, different with your voice, please, please, please think about cliches. What are cliches, y'all, when we write? What are those cliches? What are cliches? What are some examples of cliches in writing or speaking?
Sly fox, the gyro. The sly fox.
Just say it again, LaJara.
The sly fox.
the sly fox. We've heard that before, right? Many, many times. So can we say it in a new way? That's the question. Can I say the sly fox in a new way? Anyone else? A cliche that we've heard over and over again that pops up in writing and things we read.
Gina, it's raining cats and dogs.
It's raining cats and dogs.
Yeah. Birds of a
Maybe it's
feather
time for it to
flock
rain
together.
something else.
Birds of a feather flock together.
Birds of a feather flock together. Maybe it's time to say something else.
I'm just saying.
What'd you say, David?
I'm just saying.
I'm just saying. Roses are red. And we know the other color roses are the red. You know what I'm saying?
You can't teach an old dog new tricks.
You can't teach an old dog new tricks. Yeah.
On a dark and stormy night.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
I was just
Once upon a time.
I was just about to say that then.
So my point is, for the unique, original, different voice, to avoid cliches, if you even think you've heard this phrase a few times, create a new phrase. Create something new as a writer. Create a new way of saying it. Challenge yourself. You know, and then the other part about being a writer, you know, what about my ideas are new and creative? I've heard brilliant stuff here from people over the last 4 weeks, including this 5th week. You know, I'm hoping you all are writing these things down. What I say to fellow writers all the time, if they're speaking, I'm like, you need to write that down. Like, write that down. That's a powerful piece of word. Those words are powerful that you just used, you know, which is why I always keep paper close, notepad, my note section of my iPhone, whatever it is, write it down. Writers write stuff down consistently. Napkins, paper bags, whatever you got to do. Seriously.
Yep.
You know, don't throw away anything that could actually be useful to your writing journey. You never know. You never know.
That piece of mail.
I have a question about that.
Who's speaking?
My name is Zainab, and I'm in Auburn, Washington.
Hey, Washington State?
No, yeah, Washington State. Yes.
How are you?
Hey, you said so. I write everything down, but it's everywhere. How do you begin to organize it and keep it so it doesn't become just chaos or
That's a great question.
clutter?
Well, writers, you know what? I'm only gonna speak for myself. A lot of us who are writers are notoriously disorganized.
Oh, yes.
I honestly don't know how I produce half the stuff I've done. I'm just like, but a miracle and grace, by the grace of the higher powers or whatever. But to your question, if I'm working on something, I'm actually very organized. Like, say, for example, right now, I'm working on this biography of Tupac Shakur. I'm very clear where all my Tupac stuff is. It's very organized. I ain't gonna tell y'all because someone might try to go find it. I'm like, nope. But it's organized. And so I'm very clear, here is the outline of the book. Here's the research material I need for each chapter of the book. You know, here's, you know, these spaces where I keep elements that I can look up. Here's the stuff I need to read, watch, listen to, etc. And even forget Pac for a second, that book, you know, in my phone, there's a notes section. I actually have a folder called KP's Poetic Notes, because any phrases that I think of, I just put it there thinking to myself, I may come back to this and use this for one of my poems. And so I do think we have to be organized as writers, because how are you going to get published, which is the point of the workshop tonight, if you're not even organized as a writer? You can't even organize your thoughts.
Right.
Y'all with me out there?
Yeah.
Kevin.
I mean,
Kevin.
Yes. Is that Wanda?
No, this was a Gyra.
Hey, Lajira. Hey.
Hi there. You know, going back to writing things down, I've started a file for myself of interesting words and phrases, because you forget words. Like today I heard scowled and I went, that's a word I haven't used or heard in a long time.
Yeah.
So I just keep this running list of interesting words and phrases I can use. And I agree with you about taking notes on the phone. I do that too. But since I'm at home most of the time, it's just easier. But
yeah.
Be careful of Post-its. Just fair warning.
Post-its are dangerous. Post-its are dangerous. They end up all over the place.
Oh.
I mean,
I have a question.
Yes, who speak? Is that Elsie?
This is Lauren.
Lauren Summers?
Yeah.
Hey.
Hey. Hi, everybody. I have a question, which Kevin, you can answer, or other people in the group can answer.
Yeah.
When you're, particularly when you're writing poetry, do you write and then come back and edit? Do you put these pieces of maybe different things that you've written down in notes over time together? and sort of put it together like a puzzle? Like, what is your process when you write poetry?
It's all of the above. I mean, sometimes it all comes out in one sitting. Sometimes it's pieces of it and I just kind of keep building on it. And there are times because I am fairly organized with my writing now, I'll say, well, you know what, there's something I remember I wrote a couple years ago that might fit here now. That's what I'm saying, don't throw anything away, y'all. I also think it's important to date stuff. How many of y'all date things that you write?
All the time.
Yeah.
I still keep a journal. So.
Yeah. Who still keeps a journal?
I do. I date my journal entries.
That's awesome.
And also my poetry, anything that I put online.
How many of y'all have any kind of file cabinet as a writer, even if it's just a box, a cardboard box where you keep things you write? Okay.
Yeah.
These are all useful tools to being organized as a writer. So like for me, like here's the folder on the poems, here's essays, blogs, here's the book projects. Like you really should know where things are, you know? And how many of y'all have moved around a lot like I have, seriously, in your lifetimes, and you've lost stuff? Yeah. Remember we used to have floppy disks back in the
Yep.
Wow.
in the 1900s.
What to do with those?
But you know what? I want to recommend that you get stuff I've had to get stuff digitized from the 90s because the technology, I mean, you remember how big the cell phones were back? You couldn't do any of this stuff on a cell phone.
You're not a millennial if you know what these things are.
You still got them.
Here's half mine.
Okay, typewriter.
I have no idea what to do with these, but there's lots of good writing on them.
Do with them is
reads
to digitize it. And so you never know, because the other thing too, people say things like, how many of y'all have said, well, I wrote this in 2005, I wrote this in 2000, it's old, I don't think it's any good. How do you know?
Right.
Just a suggestion for people who keep like Word files or digital files is to make sure you put keywords in your in the, help me with a word here now.
The title.
In the description, no, like you can do a separate description if you go into the properties.
Okay. File names.
Sometimes, you know, I remember it was the day that I broke up with so-and-so, but I don't remember exactly what I said. So I put so-and-so's name in there and, you know, love and hate and everything.
Like
so that I can search for hate and despair. And that file will come up. So if you can remember to put keywords in, it may be helpful, especially with the digital ones where, you know, you voice recording.
Yeah.
It's not going to search for your voice. It's going to just search for what you typed in.
And I
just
and let me say this, go ahead, sorry, Daria, go right ahead.
It's Daria, but I also recommend, like for me, years ago, I digitized all my stuff. From like, whenever I finally started, like 2005, I started doing it, and then I did it again. It's an ongoing project, but I have it, most of my stuff is on my Google Drive, most of it's on my computer, and it's also on a portable drive.
Yeah.
So that, because I've changed computers, or you lose a CD, because a lot of my poems went on CDs or on zip disks, because they were the thing back then. So I try to keep them in 3 different places so that and then there's printed versions of like my older stuff, which were digitized a long time ago, but just having them in different places. And I don't keep my flash drive, my portable drive attached to my computer unless I'm backing up, just in case, because we know there's hacking and viruses and all those things happening that like, if you get it somewhere, it's going to be somewhere else. So that you don't.
Wow. Brittany Cummings asks a great story. Brittany, are you out there? Can you hear me, Brittany? I see your question. What do you do when you have a bunch? Okay. Hey, Brittany, where are you at? What part of the world are you in?
I'm in DC.
Yay!
All right.
Hi.
What do you do when you have a bunch of ideas but no plot for a story? Are you talking about fiction, or what form of writing are you talking about, first of all?
So I do science fiction for the most part. So it's like fantasy.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, you know, how many of y'all, and Brittany brings up a great question, how many of y'all have had a problem where, let's say it's a challenge to actually come up with an idea for whatever type of genre writing you're doing? Like, I have these ideas floating around, but how do I structure it? Anyone out there?
Oh yeah.
That's me.
Yeah, always.
I have trouble coming up with an angle sometimes.
An angle, brother Robert? Yeah. So let me suggest this to folks, and this is just me, and it may be useful or not. I don't of course I write organically. Sometimes stuff just gonna come out. Am I right, Charles? It's just gonna come out. You just gotta write stuff down. But honestly, I rarely write the final piece of anything, whether it's a poem, an essay, blog, an article, or a book, without an outline. And in my opinion, if you don't have some sort of structure to what you're writing, you're not going to get published. You're going to more times than not get rejected because people are going to say this is all over the place. And so I really want to stress an outline. What's an outline? What does that mean?
Organization.
Or, yeah. So who's speaking?
Right here, Robert.
Hey, Robert, what'd you say?
Or like an organized, detailed, step-by-step of what you need to write.
Yeah. How am I getting people into this piece, whatever this piece is, and how am I getting them out? How am I getting out of it?
I write backwards sometimes.
It's a plan.
A plan.
Sometimes I can see where I am and see where I'm trying to end up, so I'll write down the end. Kind of work backwards to see if it makes sense how I got there.
Yeah.
And then just keep going back and forth and might have a middle. So I kind of just work on all parts. But one thing with dialogue I've done is my daughter writes. I assume my daughter still writes. She can tell me that she writes. And then at some point they get secretive about what they're writing. But I'll work out dialogue with her. I'm like, hey, let's improv back and forth. If I say, I'm going to say some things, I just want you to talk to me. You can be in character or out of character, however you want to respond. And it sometimes helps me know what I don't want to do. Sometimes it helps me what I want to do. And sometimes I can put it down for something else. But between her and I, she's fine with me taking that from her. As opposed to another writer that's trying to publish and do the same thing. Sometimes you don't want to take from them necessarily, but it does help for me.
May I add something there?
Yes.
How about your characters? Focus on your character's backstory and look at who you have in there. What is it about these people? When was somebody born? When was somebody harmed? Or what are their experiences and how do they come together? My second thing is, folks, be careful of your flash drives. They get corrupted after years.
Yeah, I agree.
And when you do app updates, I just had a problem with an app update that it jumbled some of my words, and I'm crying inside right now, but but it just really kind of corrupted what I put in my phone. I got a new phone, and I'm like, now with that update, I just can't even really recall where I was with that.
Wow. I really want to encourage you all, please come into 2021 with your writing stuff. Don't leave it in technology that's old, because you can lose it. And I've lost stuff, seriously. You don't want to do that. People are asking a lot of questions in chat about organization. So 5 years ago, I wrote my memoir, The Education of Kevin Powell. I wrote it chronologically, and I outlined, as I was telling the story, anyone out there who's writing an autobiography or even writing a novel that's based on a character on a journey, I said, what are the 10 to 12 most important things that have happened in my life? And then let me build around those things. And then secondly, even though it's about real life people like me, my mother, etc., who are the important characters that need to be in this story? Does that make sense, y'all? Now, fast forward 5 years later, I'm working with a screenwriter, my co-writer. We're actually adapting it for the screen. And what we ended up doing first was a totally different kind of organization. We started with the characters first, because who writes plays and screenplays out there? Y'all know what I'm talking about. It's dialogue driven. And so it's a totally different type of writing, but we still need to have an idea about who are these characters and where do they fit into the story. So you have to be structured, you have to be organized. Someone asked, is it different with fiction? I think it applies to everything. If we're writing blogs or essays, you can't just say, I'm going to write a blog about the election in 3 weeks, about voting. Well, where are you going with it? What are you going to say about voting that we haven't heard before? Right. What is your unique perspective on voting that's going to make people pay attention to the piece? Does that make sense, you all?
Yeah.
Yes. Someone, I don't know where I read this though. This is
Elaina? Hey.
Yeah, that's me again.
Hey.
Someone I read recently who said, I think it was Susan Denard, but she was talking about the outlining, and I don't outline, I write. But what she said was, go back and do an outline on what you've written. and see if the outline and the story actually match up.
That's interesting. I like that.
Because I
actually love
can't,
that.
I just can't outline. The story's either going to be there or not. I just keep writing, and I'm dialogue driven. So my character's always speaking and doing things. So
You know, that's the way I
I
felt.
love dialogue.
I'm sorry that I wouldn't do, and this is Ominira, by the way, it's Ominira. I would, Ominira Chiquita, that I wouldn't do an outline, but when I found I had a lot in my head and I didn't want to lose something or forget something, then I would create an outline so that I can remember, oh yeah, I want to go here with this, go there with that, and go, you know, to this place with it. And I did find it helpful. So I mean, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I do have a script in mind, and I keep saying, oh, I'm gonna get to it. But if I do write down, if I do put that outline, it'll help me to remember where I want to go, because I have the ideas in my head, and now it's just the time to sit and write. So I think that would be helpful. So yeah, I'm glad that you did mention that.
It's important. You know, it's kind of like it's an outline is like your GPS for a writer. You know, where am I going with this book? You know, what do I want to do here? You know.
I have a question.
Yes. Hey, Dr. Miles. Hey, Angel.
Hey, Kevin.
What's up?
Hi, everybody. So I mean, you know, I think there's like a lot of multiple like methods, you know, to start writing, and you just got to figure out what's best for you, you know. Because sometimes we get stuck on a thing, but you know, it's a lot of different ways you can go about it. But one thing that is helpful for me sometimes is using a tape recorder, like, and just like recording my thoughts before I even put anything to page. And like even now, like you can use like Dragon or something like that. That is a computer tool where you could speak to it and it types as you talk, and you just like talk it out. Because for me, I have organized chaos. So like I free write, and then I take those thoughts and then I may make an outline out of the free writing, you know, ideas or something like that. But like that's my process. Somebody else may be really, you know, rigid in a different way. But I just wanted to throw that out there. Maybe think about tape recorders, and also programs like Dragon can be helpful if that's something that you want to use.
I love that. And what I'm
piggyback on the Angel, to piggyback on
Hey,
Angel.
Eartha. Hey, Eartha.
Hey, Kevin. For those of us who have 1,000 little notes on sticky notes and napkins and pieces of here, there's an app on the Android phone that has a speech to text feature that goes directly into Google Drive. So you can literally just talk those notes right into a Google Doc, and it'll capture what the notes are. And if you have multiple works, you can color code them to go to which work they belong to.
Wow.
Okay, that's
Look at
good.
that.
Is there anybody else that's out there? This is Kimberly Jenkins.
Hey, Kimberly.
Hey, I get the whole outline thing, and I do it often. But is there anyone out there that you create an outline for an idea that you have to organize your flow, and then you end up when you're done, like it's not even the same outline, like
Of course. Yeah,
I
all the time.
get super hung up on I love words, so I get super hung up on paragraphs, and I don't know how okay or normal this is, but I could be on a paragraph for like several hours.
I do the same. I've been on a sentence for several hours. I understand.
And I keep thinking something's got to be wrong with me. Why am I so?
No.
And then I go back to it again. Like I'll get 3 pages of something done, and then when I come back to it, like the next day, I'll go back to that paragraph, and it'll be completely different again. Like, and then I'll be on the same paragraph for another day or two. Like, is there anybody else, or is that just me? Like, is it?
That's normal.
That's
called
writing.
That's called being a writer.
That is called
Completely
writing.
Thank you, Judy. Thank you for saying that. I mean, I've been stuck on titles. I've been stuck on the first word of a sentence, of a piece. I mean.
Didn't Stephen King say something about revising a paragraph 39 times?
Oh, yeah.
And I know it's really interesting for me, because when I finished the book that I just finished, I went through 24 revisions.
Wow.
And it's like 400 pages, you know, but it was very interesting looking what you're looking for each time.
Yeah.
And even after, and of course I put it down after each revision, because if not, I'm not going to see the same things. But it was interesting to try to find the best word choices or things like,
hello.
And I think with shorter pieces, there's a great program called Natural Soft. And it even would work for novels, but you have to break it up where it actually reads it back to.
Hey, we can hear you. Whoever's saying what you do. I hope we don't get.
Someone needs to mute themselves.
I hope we don't get X-rated up in this piece. Boy.
I got my pen.
So this my last question. For those of you who've been published and you have books out there, whether it's poetry, what have you, this is for you, Kevin, and anybody else. Do you ever feel finished?
No.
That's a good question.
I mean, there's things that I've written in the past that I'm very proud of. There are things that I cringe about. I just said to a fellow writer today, there's titles of books that I even hate. I'm like, why did I pick that title? That's awful. You know what I mean? I personally, after I write something, no matter what it is, unless it's except for poetry, because a lot of times those of us who are poets will read or perform our poetry in public. Most of the things I write, I never read again, to be honest with you. I just let it go. But again, it's, I believe Carla Vega and Dodie and some other folks said in the chat room, you know, writing is a very individualistic thing. It's like what works for you. Some people have to get a whole thing out of them. Some people get stuck on the title or the first sentence, the first paragraph. You know, I just want to encourage you all not to be tortured writers. You know, whatever your process is, you know, let's try not to be tortured writers. Because I've been that tortured writer where I'm like banging my head literally against the table, like, oh my God. You know, in one of the first sessions, do y'all remember I said we should even try to avoid using terms like writer's block? Like, you know,
Yeah, remember that.
You know, we're in process of creating something. I'm gonna flip this.
So you have to stop, right? I mean, it's like looking for a spouse or buying a house. At some point, you do have to stop. Yeah. I mean, because you can always pick something apart. You know.
Well, you're right, Elsie. And LaDriver said something very important. I want to, you know, I got this from Toni Morrison. I mean, you have to be your first. You have to be the first editor. We have to learn how to self-edit. That's important. You know, but I think you don't learn how to self-edit if you don't read. And if you don't take the craft of writing seriously, no matter what style of writing, no matter what genre of writing you do, because you'll know. And then I have a question for y'all. Who do you allow to read your work first, other than yourself, if anyone?
Nobody.
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 No.
I'll just put it out there.
I have readers.
I'm scared. You know, I appreciate what you was. Hey, I appreciate what you were saying, because Kimberly, what I was thinking about when you were talking about reviewing your paragraph is that we should be careful not to allow a meticulous eye to turn into self-sabotage, and I'm guilty of that.
Yeah.
And sometimes when I'm going over and over and over, and I really take a moment to stop and think about it, I literally have to ask myself, is this about grammar? Is this about sentence structure? Is this about a better way to flow? Or is this about my own self-doubt? And it's something that I really have to bring an awareness to. And then I have just another question. Pardon me if it sounds ignorant, but in the
Nothing's
chat.
ignorant. Say it again.
Nothing's ignorant.
Yeah.
So in the chat, when we were talking about—
Donald Trump is ignorant, but that's a whole nother conversation.
In the chat, when we were talking about like structure and organization, someone mentioned that a memoir may be more flexible than an autobiography.
I saw that.
And just for clarity, what is the difference between a memoir, something that would be considered a memoir, and something that's an autobiography?
Nothing to me.
I was the one who wrote that because I had to research it myself. I'm in the middle of writing a memoir of sorts.
Okay.
And
so
part of the thing is that an autobiography is very like a history book. Like, this is the beginning, this is the next part, this is the next part, and it's like a very detailed story from beginning to end.
In a linear way.
A memoir can be a little bit more like essays. It can jump a little bit. As long as there's a running theme that's keeping the whole book together, it doesn't have to be as specific as I was born in a small town in this place, and then I next went to school here, and then I had this next experience, and then this thing happened to lead us here. It can sort of be like, it's a little more flexible in how you actually tell that story.
Thank you.
Let me go back to P.D. Thomas. Down These Mean Streets is a memoir. It is an autobiography, but it's so personal and so real and truthful and gritty. Like the dirty of the dirt is in there, where he doesn't care that the reader may be offended by some things. It's so personal. That is what a memoir is to me.
Yeah.
And then, like with the on our first session together, one of the things that really stood out to me was people repeatedly saying, "It's your story," right? And when we talk about cliches, right, that we hear that a lot. It's your story, and you have an innate right to tell it. Yeah. But I am finding it challenging to. Because I started writing an autobiography about a decade ago. And one of the things that's holding me back is that a lot of my trauma, that's such a huge part of my story, just to be transparent, like I don't want to hurt my mama's feelings.
Yeah.
So, you know, so if anybody has any supportive ways outside of, yes, I do tell myself it's my story, I have a right. It's my story, I have a right. But I think culturally, I'm so deeply embedded in not hurting my mother, right? Or having like a respect for my mom, you know? So I don't know how to circumvent that.
I mean, my memoir, autobiography, now you got me confused. My autobiography, you know, it's interesting, Daria, the definition you broke down, actually half my book is autobiographical form, the other half is memoir form, because I kind of make it essays in the second part of it. So thank you for breaking that down. If you could share that on the Facebook group with us as well, that breakdown, I would really appreciate it. Thank you. Larissa and everyone, I mean, again, I knew I could not tell my story without telling my mother's story, but I had to make a concerted effort to tell it with the word you just used, respect, but also love. And also contextualize, here is where my mother came from, which will explain for people why the dynamic of who she was vis-a-vis me happened in certain kinds of ways, if that makes sense. I also will credit years of therapy with being able to do that. You know, counseling is real, so that I didn't write a book where I was dissing and blaming my mother for stuff. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Larissa,
go ahead.
Hi, this is Eunice.
Hey, Eunice.
Hi, Eunice.
I'm Puerto Rican, so I get it. I get it, Nina. I get it, right? And I'm working on something now that's, I like, I really like vignettes, right? I really like, it's like a small moment to let people just live that moment and then leave it, right? Yeah. Whatever people take out of it, I just told the story. I didn't let it go. And my mom will say, Nena, eso no pasó así, or that didn't happen that way. I'm like, well, you don't need to cross-check, Mom. You pinched me in the store because I got lost. You got mad at me, however you, right? But I recently read Sherman Alexi's You Don't Need to Tell Me You Love Me. Sherman Alexi's a Native American author. He has a really hard relationship with his family in general, having grown up on a reservation and then not. And he wrote this really beautiful memoir about how he didn't feel like his mom loved him. It was really harsh. And he dedicates these chapters to her, where he learned about her history. He asked people about her, not from her. He went around her and asked. And someone told him that she was a child of rape, and then maybe not her, maybe her mother. And so he dedicates all of these beautiful chapters to like understanding her in the nicest way, like just as an adult understanding another adult, not as a mom. And it was such a lovely homage. It's a hard book, but you leave there understanding his mother and understanding where he got with her. And I think that as a Latina, we're taught not to ask about them. Yeah. Right? That's así es. Yo soy así es. Punto. Se acabó. Right? Sí, but claro. I have a kooky My mom is one of 15, but she's number 2, and the number 1 is like a kooky aunt who'll tell me stories. And so from her, I elicit a lot about my mom.
Yeah.
Right? From her, I elicit a lot about your mom was shy. She was introverted. She was the one that mom picked on. She was the one that became the nanny. I got to go to high school. She didn't, right? And she gave me this whole other. And so then when I put that in the story, my mom kind of steps back to be like, oh, you sort of saw me. But she'll never tell me those things. She'll never say to me, I felt like I was the servant of that. She'll never say that to me, but I kind of go around her to sort of piece her together a little bit. And so, you know, in doing a vignette, you can then break off into an essay that explains what was happening, or whatever you want.
And you know
but
what?
I think it's paying respect with words still.
Paying respect.
Thank you.
Eunice, that was powerful. Wow.
Thank you.
Wait, hold on. We need to do something because I'm inspired. She said paying respect with words. We're gonna, Veronica wants to read. I got you, Veronica, and we're gonna have some other folks that want to read tonight. But you know, part of this is I do have an agenda that y'all will never see. It's right here, which is why we're having these conversations. We're gonna get to about how we publish our work, but let's pull out. Let's write. I'm gonna challenge us. Let's write. Let's do. We're gonna do this tonight again. I want to challenge you to do either 250 words or 5 minutes, whichever comes first, in first person, something that you've been uncomfortable expressing that you feel is really important that you need to write about. And it could be, as Eunice just said so powerfully, so eloquently, it could become an autobiographical essay. But
something that say that again, Kevin.
Something that we really wanted to share, but it's been uncomfortable because of family, afraid of hurting people.
Okay.
But in my opinion, folks, when we hold it back, we end up hurting ourselves. Just take a few minutes, 5, 6 minutes. I got the clock on, 5, 6 minutes. And no matter what kind of writer you are, write about yourself right now for the next 5 minutes, or 250 words, 250 to 500 words, whatever can come out of you. If it's just one sentence, so be it. I hope it's more than that, though. I think these exercises are important for us. So we're throwing all these things out there that are really beautiful and heavy, but sometimes just like the haiku exercise that we did, you know, we need to practice writing in different ways. So why not right now together? All this genius that's in this room is incredible. People are staring at me like I hate you, Kevin Powell. Mr. Lopez, can we mute everybody?
We don't talk about that.
let's pause, everyone. Just, I want to say a few things before we unmute everyone. You all got my wheels turning tonight, as always. I love writing, but there have been times when I've hated writing. Writing's definitely changed my life, but it's also been very painful. A lot of the things that you're saying, you all are saying, I certainly have experienced, which is how do I talk about my life? How do I talk about my family? How do I talk about the woman who raised me, my mother, without hurting anyone? I've definitely been embarrassed by things I've written, and I have felt empowered by things I've written. I've definitely been published a lot, but I also have a lot of rejection letters that I still keep to this day, and I still get them, including this year, a lot. Writing is not for the faint of heart. You really have to love writing and wanting to get your voice out there. Hey, Stephanie Hilborn. Stephanie just said that was intense. Someone texted me and said that they were triggered by the assignment.
Hi,
hey, Stephanie. Hey, the Bay Area is in the building. Can we start to, can we unmute everyone? Y'all funny. I mean, y'all said y'all are writers. Y'all wanted to be here.
Right. Yeah.
You know, this is the same thing I would do in a college class, a writers group in the community, in high school. It doesn't, you know, we have to push ourselves if we're serious about this. You know what I mean?
Yep. My therapist is gonna earn her money tomorrow. Yep.
Thank you. Thank everyone.
Just by the show of, what'd you say?
I was just saying,
Hey,
thank everyone
Veronica.
hey, I've been here the whole time. I wanted to thank everyone for mentioning therapy, specifically. So, full disclosure, I am a therapist. I am a mental health counselor.
Oh, hey.
I'm not wanting to be anyone in this group's therapist. I'm here
I was gonna say, what's your number?
me, my own edification. But I want to say this, and I think this is very important because I've worked with a lot of poets, especially spoken word artists, who often come to me, and I have worked with them after they have written something very deep and heavy and dealt with trauma, and they choose to write about it, and they choose to share it with the world before they have healed. I encourage everyone to do the work, to do the self-work, and know that you are in a space, and everyone has different definitions of healing, but healing in the context of you can be whole when you are sharing it with the world. Because if you're not, often what happens, if anyone offers the littlest of critique, it breaks you if you haven't dealt with it.
That's right.
So this is very therapeutic. It's not therapy, it is therapeutic. I agree 100 grand. But I'm also always concerned, especially for Black and brown people's mental and emotional health, especially mental and emotional health of artists and creatives, because we do things that push us. And I've seen people become addicted to substances, people who have ended their lives. If we be real, writers have a very high rate of death by suicide.
Yep.
And so I want us to take care of ourselves mentally and emotionally while we're also going on this creative journey, because you know Basquiat and others
That's right.
who have had Amy Winehouse. One of my ex-boyfriends used to always say, those some heavy-hearted sisters. He used to talk about Amy Winehouse, Alanis Morissette, and Lauryn Hill. And he used to be like, they scare me because they heavy-hearted sisters. So I encourage you to protect your heart and your spirit, and also to seek out mental health counseling. If you ain't into talk therapy, there's creative arts therapists. There's plethora of different forms of therapists out here. There's even bibliophile writing therapists. So seek these individuals out to support you, especially if you're dealing with trauma that you're writing about and you haven't previously dealt with it. And if it's coming up, to do that trauma responsive work, not trauma informed, but actual trauma responsive work. So I just wanted to offer that.
I agree. Thank you so much, Veronica. You know, she's
Kevin.
just one second. Is that Andrew?
Yes. I want to share, just confirm what she just said about needing therapy, because I've been trying to write a memoir for the last 25 years, and I do a lot of essays. And you know, I've told the story in a lot of pieces. So, but you know, my agent Cherise Fisher, you probably know her. Well, I'm trying to sell her to represent me. So anyway, you know, she said, okay, no, I don't want an essay collection. I want a memoir. So I sent a friend of mine about 5 pages for a forward yesterday, and she called me back and she said, you know, you've got some abandonment issues. And I said, I know. And so she was like, yeah, you've got to, you may have to consider going to get some therapy. And it's not something that I've done. But you talk about being raised by, you know, the woman who raised you. I was raised by grandparents. And you know, I was raised by neither father nor mother. And so that sort of separation, even though you, as a kid, you don't think about it, as a writer, it is sort of coming back, the whole, you know, the distance of separation. And so much of what you do or what you say and what you feel is sort of a result of reacting to that fear of separation. So, but yeah, so I just want to confirm. Yeah, so I'm actually thinking for the first time that maybe it's something that I should do, because it's not something that I've ever considered before.
Veronica, I'm glad that you brought it up, and it started with the first session when folks were talking about mental health. I mean, again, therapy, 30 years. I could not even imagine not going to therapy, because one of the things I thought about, not just writers, but dancers, actors, actresses, filmmakers, so many people who are creative, who feel things in a certain kind of way. You know, Veronica mentioned Amy Winehouse. I think I might have mentioned last week that I made a mistake of watching a documentary on Amy Winehouse and Nina Simone in the same weekend, and just seeing all the mental health issues. Because what often happens, and Veronica, and I'm sure other folks here who do this work, you know, would agree that it's not like we're given tools to deal with our emotional state from when we were children. And so many of us carry around trauma. I read an article today in the New York Times that I posted in our Facebook group about Megan Thee Stallion, the rapper, talking about, you know, sexual assault against women, Black women, women of color. And, you know, someone's hit me up because there are folks who go off on celebrities. That's what they want to do. And I responded to them, I don't really know anyone, whether they're famous or not famous, who's not been traumatized in some way in their lives by something. You know what I mean? And some of the trauma is passed along from generation to generation. You know, if you're a Black person, it literally can go back to slavery. If you're a Jewish person, I have friends who are Jewish who are still dealing with the Holocaust. They weren't even alive when the Holocaust happened, but it's generational stuff that gets passed along. And so I think that it's important what Veronica's saying, because this space is important for me as a writer, because I think, you know, people ask for it, but we've been saying from the very first week, mental health, therapy, counseling, something that can help you, spiritual work, you know, in some form, because if you put it all into your writing, I don't think that's actually healthy if you're not doing other work to balance that stuff out. You know what I mean? Because you can be as talented as an Amy Winehouse, as talented as a Whitney Houston, as talented as a Tupac Shakur. But one of the things I remember when I interviewed him in jail, after we left, his publicist said, this time he's in jail is probably the only quiet time he's ever had in his whole life. Think about that for a second. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because of all the trauma and all the movement and stuff like that. And so I'm encouraging you all to write, not necessarily for everyone to share their stuff, not at all. But I do think it's important whether you publish stuff the way I do, or you just, as someone said in the chat room, it's just for me. I do think we have to begin to get some things out of us. Otherwise, we carry this stuff around with us our entire lives, and we consciously and subconsciously, I believe, Veronica, that we end up passing it on to people around us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The beautiful thing is when we do the work and we do our own healing work, we can heal 7 generations back and 7 generations ahead.
That's right.
So that healing work of using the writing or whatever creative form you use. And if you are a writer, using movement. What we know about trauma is somatics. It's in the body. When someone said it's in our DNA, yes, it's in our DNA, it's in our bones. So as we're writing, also I encourage doing movements, doing different types of writing, turning the page upside down, because movement also helps to get it up and out.
Yeah, and Andrew, I appreciate your honesty, because we also know that a lot of us who identify as males don't ever talk about this stuff, you know. We need to, you know. It's deep. I'm sorry. You wanted to say something.
I wanted to say something.
Yes,
Yeah, because I was in a playwriting course in my graduate school, and I've written like several one-woman shows and things. When I was in this course,
congratulations.
he said, write about something that happened to you personally. So I wrote a story about what happened to me, and then he wrote on my paper, I told you to write what happened to you. This is so fantastic. This could never happen. I was so ashamed. I mean, at the time I was younger, and I thought, oh, I shouldn't tell it. And that was a really shocking thing. And I think, when you have had trauma, then you give it to someone and they don't believe you, and then you really feel shamed. I didn't even tell him.
Yeah.
I should have, but I didn't tell him that really happened because I was too ashamed. And I think you have to be careful when we do show our work that not everyone will respond in a either positive or important, even sensitive way.
I agree with you. There's people that are just really mean and cruel and hateful. And here you are trying to get something off your chest and it just gets trashed. We've actually talked about this from the first week as well. People saying that they were concerned about being in safe spaces where, because they're used to be getting dissed. I just think it's unacceptable. I hope no one feels that has been the case in this space at all.
No.
Veronica, do you want to go? Do you want to read what you wrote or something?
Or something, not what I just wrote.
Okay, I understand.
We don't want to go there publicly right now.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll just read what I had prepared. We are breathing, calling out the violence against Black women. Freeing our people and not being silenced. Henrietta Lacks, Renisha McBride, Shanique Proctor, Tondela Hall, Sakia Gunn, Bree Black, Rakia Boyd, Naila Franklin, India Martin, Atatiana Jefferson, Corinne Gaines, Breonna Taylor. In our homes, we're supposed to be safe. Shed layers of the day, no need to code switch at home. Supposed to be able to make dinner while kikiing with our mothers on the phone. Study for school after a long day's work. Be with our mates. Go to bed and sleep good all night long. In our homes, we're supposed to be safe. Breastfeed babies without a veil or shame. Teach them our her stories and his stories and our they them stories. Supposed to be able to pick out our natural hair, twist out locks, unwrap our crown. Listen to Coltrane, Meg, and Tasha Cobbs. Wear those fluffy bunny ear slippers and watch Beth and Randall Pearson on This Is Us. And at the end of the day, a bedtime comfort sip of tea or golden milk. Exhale the day, letting tomorrow take care of itself.
Yeah.
Go to bed and sleep good all night long. In our homes, we're supposed to be safe. Awakened by sun, inhale the day, hydrate, moisturize, meditate, and pray. In the home of our bodies, we're also supposed to be safe. The right to choose. Not merely put here to birth babies, but to birth ideas, innovation, creation, birth, freedom. In the home of our bodies, we're also supposed to be safe. Safe to be who we are, cisgender, genderqueer, transgender, born as is. To be who we are, heterosexual, homosexual, pansexual, asexual, born as is. Safe in our fatness or our thinness or our lightness or our darkness. Safe in our ability or our disability.
Yes.
Safe in our mental and emotional health, and safe even if we are not in balance and struggling with being more than a diagnosis. Safe. Safe in our loving, safe in our profession, safe in our living, safe in our breathing, safe in the home of our body, safe in the home of our living. Shots fired through window, through door, through the dark, through the light. Shots fired through the flesh of Black female body. Shots fired through the humanity of Black women. The last 3 Black women killed by cops were in their homes. They were in their homes. Corinne Gaines, Tatiana Jefferson, Breonna Taylor. We speak your names. So now they be flying African stardust and energy. They are safe and everywhere.
Yeah.
Safe in their cosmic, everlasting, ancestral home.
Wow.
Wow.
Thank you.
Wow. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Powerful.
Powerful. Did you write that? You wrote this very recently, or?
Yes, it was after the sister, the second class or third class, wrote about the body. And, yeah, I do a lot of girl and women-centered work. So, yes, how she was writing about that, and I do a lot around women who are girls and women who are survivors of sexual assault. So, and hearing that, it just made me think about so many people. And when Corinne Gaines was killed, that bothered me a whole bunch. It bothered my spirit. And that was a few years ago. That was before Breonna Taylor.
Right.
Because she was a mama and she had a baby. She had a baby. She had 3 children, and 2 or 3. And to be killed in her home, and you had the tape of her telling her son, but you a warrior, you a soldier. I was like, wait, he a baby. But his spirit clearly had been here before, and he was much older than what we knew him to be as a 3 to 5-year-old. But his spirit was much older than that. Because even when in the hospital, when he talked about his mama, and he was the one who had to explain what happened. He said it like a soldier, but he is a baby. And we adultify Black girls and boys, and they have to grow up too fast. And so, yeah, that's where the piece came from.
Wow.
Felt that in my soul. Oh my God.
A great piece of writing. Have you published it anywhere yet?
No, it's very new. It's just, I'm just sitting with it. I'm just sitting with it. I'll do something with it. Waiting for spirit to tell me what to do with it.
And wait till they repost this so I can listen to you again.
Are you?
Go ahead and put this on the website.
Where are you at, Veronica, again? Where are you at?
I'm in Chicago.
Chi-town.
It's beautiful when you read it. It's beautiful when you read it out loud.
Yes. Thank you.
Maybe when you publish it, you should have a recording too.
I agree.
I'll never forget Corinne's face. Remember, I always felt right from that moment, that was a Nat Turner moment. She made a decision. She looked right at him.
Yeah.
I'm doing this. She was talking to us as well. And you doggone right, she spoke to that baby. She spoke to her man too. She made her way to that house. She knew that was the end. And she was giving that boy life lessons that fast. She was breaking it down real fast. I will never forget her face.
Wow.
John, you know, Blackness is a survival. We are from a lineage of survivors. And how long have Black women, Black brothers too, but I'm speaking as a Black woman, how long have we had to, in our last moments of something, whether being sold away or our children being sold away or being dragged away, how long do we have to constantly, those be our last words, telling them that you are a soldier or you are an angel or you are, and we're doing that still now. Like,
yeah,
it is all, Black children, I don't even believe that I think that they're born old souls because we are old souls.
It's in the DNA.
Yes, it is it's in the DNA. There's beauty in that, but there's also trauma in that. Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
So memory.
Yes. Coming from education, K-12 education, I see my babies are like this all the time, especially the teachers and some of the teachers, you know, skin folk ain't always kinfolk.
Right.
I'm talking about us too, operating in trauma, trying to guide children through the education system through trauma and not even realizing that. So that was when you were reading that poem, Veronica, it was taking me back to the hallways of K-12, to kindergartners. I talked about this, you know, walking down the hall, bubbles and hugs, like hugging themselves so that they don't touch anybody, like learning how to control their own bodies in kindergarten and holding their mouths like this so that they can silence themselves. Walking from one part of the building to the next. If there are any K-12 teachers in here, you know what I'm talking about. And they literally have a line drawn down the hallway for them to walk on.
That's crazy.
And it is crazy. And there's trauma in that as well.
That's right.
Yeah. Wow.
If I could, this is Elaina. Today, my son sent me an article written in the New York Times by Megan Thee Stallion.
Yeah.
I would suggest that everybody, that's an excellent article talking about the assault on Black women's bodies. It's a very
We put that in the Facebook group today, so it's in the Facebook group. Thank you for saying that, Elaina. Whew. Veronica, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Michelle Jones, do you still want to read something?
Yes.
Read what you just wrote. Where you at?
I'm gonna read. Hey guys.
Hey Michelle.
All right. I remember the first time you asked us to just write on the fly. I was like, all right, really, Kevin. But this time I didn't have this anxiety that I had the first time, so it just kind of flowed.
Oh, good.
So I'm gonna read what I wrote. Safe space, right? No judgment, right?
Yes.
No judgment.
No judgment.
Are you comfortable reading it? Are you
I am.
okay?
I'm comfortable. I'm good.
Okay.
All right. So for the last 31 years, I have kept a part of my life a secret, only opening up to a select few for the fear of rejection and judgment stifled my growth. It wasn't until recently that I decided it was time to tell my story and free myself from the confinements that my mind had me trapped in. 31 years ago, I gave birth to my first son, who was born with drugs in his system. The guilt I held on to stifled me because any shortcomings he had, I blame myself, even lashing out at him as a child when he struggled to learn. My guilt became his problem. I finally released those feelings. I finally let go of the guilt. Wait, where am I at? I realized that was a part of our past, but it's not a part of our present and will never be a part of our future.
Wow.
Nice.
Wow. Wow.
If I
That's
could
good.
say something, Kev, Michelle shared that earlier today in a video of something she had to do, and she's speaking the words now, and I'm getting emotional just thinking about it. Right? She wasn't able to say the words of what she's saying now. She had to articulate it in a way that wasn't spoken. So that had me, because I know her son, right? And I never knew that story. So to see where her son is now, I lost it, like just reading it. So Michelle, for you to even be reading it now is vulnerable, powerful, and amazing. And I wanted to share that.
Thank you, Jay.
Wow. Thank you, Michelle. That was incredible. Wow. You know, I'm gonna be honest with you all. When I constructed this these workshops, I had no idea where this was gonna go. What I did know is that I didn't want people to be attacked or dissed, and like I've seen, as people have talked about in previous spaces, I wanted people to feel comfortable being able to say what they feel and comfortable writing and sharing if they wanted to share. And it's okay if you don't want to share. There's some folks that talk. There's some folks who never talk, but I see their faces here every week. You know, this session was supposed about getting published. We got 30 minutes left. If y'all want to ask me questions about getting published, we can do that. It's up to you all. I leave it up to the floor. What do y'all want to do?
I have a question, Kevin.
Who's speaking?
Robert.
Robert. Hey, Robert.
How are you?
Hey.
First of all, thank you for doing this. This is quite amazing.
Thank you all.
Yep. When was your first break? When do you go back and look at your whole career? Who gave you your first break? Did you give yourself your first break? How did it happen for you?
That's a great question. I will say this, Brother Robert and everyone here, I was one of those folks that we call an introvert, socially awkward. Growing up, I was afraid of my own voice. I wouldn't even speak half the time. And if I did speak, I would speak really fast as a child and a teenager. My senior year of high school, the first break, as you put it, came from my English teacher, Mrs. Lillian Williams. She was my 12th grade English teacher. And I don't know what I wrote, but she saw something in my writing and she said, you need to enter an essay contest. And I said, well, what's an essay contest? I had no clue. I played sports in school, but I'm an only child too. And so I was very socially awkward, you know, but the first break, wasn't college, it wasn't professionally with a check. It was actually that 12th grade English teacher, Mrs. Lillian Williams, older African-American woman, who said, you can write. And I won the essay contest in my hometown of Jersey City. And I ended up in a newspaper, which was shocking to me. And I just, you know, and she made sure that I entered another contest that I won. And she made sure that I was given a special writing award when we graduated. This Mrs. Williams was an amazing human being, because she was exhibiting what I think that we, Robert, and everyone else out there need to exhibit, which is empathy and compassion and kindness for people. Let's help people.
Mm-hmm.
I would not be sitting here right now with 14 books if it wasn't for Mrs. Lillian Williams. That's the honest to God truth.
That's amazing.
My mother first, because my mother took me to the library when I was 8.
Right.
And then fast forward 9 years later, when I'm 17, Mrs. Lillian Williams. And you know what, I'm trying not to get emotional now. Mrs. Williams died a few years ago of cancer. Her husband died before her, and she died a year later. She was so sad about her husband dying.
Wow.
She literally, Robert and everyone, unbeknownst to me until later, just before she died, she literally followed me my entire career and cut out every article that I wrote.
Damn.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Nice.
So, you know, when people, you know, I'm gonna keep it real with you. A lot of people said to me, Kev, you need to be making money off of this workshop. You know, no. Lillian Williams, that's my answer.
That's good that you have a solid foundation. And I had that too, growing up too. So that's important. That's very vital. It's vital and it's important to have that in a teacher or anyone has your back. That's really important. Support is important.
Now professionally, I will add, Robert, in college, I was writing for the school papers. I was lucky to get to college. I was poor, but there was a program for kids that were poor in Jersey, and I got to go to college. And I started writing for the school papers. It was actually a paper that was founded by Black and Latinx students, you know, and that's how it happened. And then at 20, I started commuting from Central New Jersey to New York, and I got my first check as a writer when I was 20 years old, because I was in a hurry, to be honest with you. I was like, man, I'm trying to do this now.
Yeah.
And I was just determined. I hear a lot of y'all talk about journals. I was journaling the whole way. I think if you really want to be a writer, and I made it a point, I was reading everything I could get my hands on. I'm very serious about reading, very serious about reading. And I'm also very serious about networking. Like, you know, half the battle, y'all, you have to know people. And again, I know a lot of us said that we're introverts, but you know, you have to come out of your shell a little bit, because you will not get where you need to go as a writer if you don't actually know some people. You know what I'm saying?
Relationships are important.
Relationships are important. And so that's how it happened. It started at 20. And I mean, I was so green, Robert, and everyone. I remember going to City Hall to cover some press conference for whoever the mayor was at the time. And I sat in the seat of the New York Times reporter. I didn't know. I was like, well, the seat's open. So sit here. You know what I'm saying? New York Times reporter's like, you don't work for us.
You knew where you were supposed to be.
That was projection.
So early. You're just early.
Hey, you know, I have a couple articles in the New York Times this year, so there it is, right? But you know what I mean? But you have to be determined. You have to say, I'm a writer, and you have to go for it. And you got to write. Writers have to write. And you do have to come out of your shell a little bit, because nothing will happen. I mean, my rule of thumb, folks, if y'all are serious about being writers, and we're serious about being writers, you know, networking. Like no one has asked me in 5 weeks of doing this, well, Kevin, you know, who should I talk to besides you? Not a single person here has asked me. I'm just saying, I'm here.
This is my second week. I have a question. I want to get my book. And I've had my book for a while, but I'm still finding life with it. It was something you were saying about, you know, how do you keep it going, or what do you think? Or what would I do differently? I forget how you phrased it earlier, but a friend of mine once told me, said, if you actually knew what you were doing, just think where your book would be now, right? You know, because my thing was, I had this passion. I knew I wanted to write, and things flowed for me. It was a blessing to get it done. I found this great illustrator, Jerry Kraft. He was about the business.
Jerry, I know Jerry.
And I was excited. Yes. And so he's too busy to do my second book, but that's a different story. But, you know, so I'm excited about it. But, you know, I was learning as I was going. It's almost like that Les Brown jump and then grow wings as you go, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, even now, I just got the book into an ebook. So that was a big thing for me. I'm so excited. And people are like, oh, you got a new book? You got a new book? I was like, no, I just gave it new life, because I knew that there was more to the book. So I'm still growing and learning. But I haven't gotten my book put in a library yet, because they tell me I need a review. So anytime I contact New York Times, no response. Or I try and contact, somebody, or people like, oh, I know somebody, and I'll contact them. No response. Like, who do I contact? How do I go about getting a review of my book so I can get in a library?
Great question.
I don't know if you know anything about that.
Oh, I know all about all of it. I mean, this is where also, this is something I was going to say, Chiquita, to you about getting published. It's also important for us to have relationships with other writers, because a lot of the reviews that I've gotten, not because they're my friends, they just happen to support the work or believe in the work, have reviewed my books. But if we're working in isolation, and Chiquita, I mean, you can hit me up anytime. We talk on Twitter all the time. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
There's tons of writers. This is what they do. They write reviews of books. Those things are actually helpful. Publishers Weekly is helpful. Kirkus is helpful. Let's make sure we put these things up on the chat room for folks who may not know what we're talking about. But it's a process. And I think it's the last workshop about the business. Well, the 7th workshop, part of the, unfortunately, everyone, Chiquita and Robert, part of this is a business, and just like in any other business, you're not going to sell hot dogs. You're not going to sell soda, whatever you sell, if you don't actually you nurture customers. You know what I'm saying? And so even like with writers, and I'm skipping ahead a little bit, y'all, but we're talking about getting published tonight. We need to be on, every time you write something that you happen to publish somewhere, I'm not talking about social media, but it's safe, even if it's on medium.com or in your website, your personal blog, you got to text it to people. You got to email it to people. You need to be on LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Text it, email it, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. Let people know that you've written something, no matter where it is. This writers group, and maybe what we'll do in November, actually, now that we're having this conversation, I'm going to bring in, folks are asking about literary agents. Maybe we'll have a night where we'll bring in some literary agents. How about that? We'll bring in some folks that are in the world so we can ask some questions. I'll bring in some fellow writers of different backgrounds so they can answer some questions. Is that cool, y'all?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Because
hi, Kevin. It's Judy.
Hey, Judy.
I have a question about blogs.
Yes.
What is the difference? What is a blog used for? What is the purpose of a blog? And is it necessary for you to have one if you're a published writer?
That's a great question. Who remembers what we talked about a couple weeks ago with blogs and essays? Anyone?
That was last week.
Last week?
Last week.
Time is, wow. Okay, what's last week? Does anyone remember?
I wasn't here for that one. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Can anyone share with Judy what we were talking about last week? The difference between a blog and an essay. Is there a difference? Elaina, anybody? I see folks shaking their heads.
I'll take it.
You're muted, Elaina. You're muted.
I'll summarize it. It's Dodie in Kansas City.
Hey, Dodie. What's up?
Hi.
Hi, Dodie.
The synopsis is that some felt a blog is a more casual venue. Kevin encourages us to keep the sacred written word in its best form, however we publish it, but that the blog is a little more casual, perhaps, than, what was the other word? What's the other word we've been using?
An essay.
Essay, thank you.
Yeah.
And then my observation, because I come from the marketing world, is that a blog in my world is simply the venue through which you share whatever you want to share, the written word, a photograph, video. It's just a place on your website where it can be an archive. And I was just posting in the chat that I want each of you, God, there's so much brilliance here. I want to read more of what you have. I want you each to have a page where I can follow you. I'm not going to follow you on Facebook. That's a terrible platform. I don't want to help those people. I want to help you. And I want to be able to subscribe to your work, and I want you to send me your work every time you write something. And I want you to look at Patreon, which is a website that allows you to set up your page, and I'll pay you every time I read your stuff.
Wow.
And it adds up, folks. So it's a way to be a professional writer without having to play in a traditional publishing game. And many of the bigger businesses in publishing and other forms of the biz are looking to these sites to find the new talent. And you can make money.
How do you spell Patreon? I'm sorry.
Patreon. So it's a riff on patron, right? To be the patron of somebody's work, and you can support other people. And there's so many of you I want to read. I want to swallow a lot longer than we get to swallow here, you know?
Yep. No, Dodie, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
So,
Kevin, what you said last week was we blog for others in order to create conversation.
Yeah.
Wow.
Nice.
Is that what I said? Wow, there it is. But,
I'm good.
folks, someone said, so we have the link for Patreon there. I also want to add to Dodie's point, which I agree with 1,000%. You know, Wix, Wix.com is a very quick way to build your own website, your own blog space. I
That's
really
what my
recommend,
website
I
is.
agree with her, Wix.com, build your own site so you can have your own blog space. And also you can, if you want to go to set up an account at medium.com, which I would also recommend, that's an easy space to set up, you know, but Wix.com, you know, and Patreon, I agree with that as well. But I think, you know, someone asked the question, what is the difference between self-publishing and publishing? Well, guess what? My 14th book is actually my own creation, because I've been with the Simon Schuster's, the Random Houses, etc. I'm pretty sure the Tupac book is going to be somewhere. It was with Simon Schuster. I decided to take it back because I said I need to do it my own way. Because a lot of times, unfortunately, a lot of folks who are in certain spaces just don't have the vision or the best interests of writers at heart. That's a whole nother conversation. You know what I mean? But I want to stress, no matter what space I'm in, I read. I take the craft of writing seriously. And I also take seriously, you know, to Dodie's point, learning the business of writing from every angle. So I can say that I actually know how to publish a book. I don't call it self-publishing. I published my book. I set up a company, Keepo Inc. Keepo, K-E-P-O, that's my graffiti name when I was a kid, doing graffiti back in the day, tagging back in the day, as we call it. And, you know, I put it out on Apple Books, and then I brought it over to Amazon because I said I wanted to have some control over what I'm doing with this particular book. You know what I'm saying? And it was just a personal decision. I mean, doesn't mean, it's kind of like, and where did that model come from for me? Prince, the singer Prince, who said you need to own what you create. You know what I mean? And I'm here to tell you all, you know, we're talking about the business of writing, you know, and publishing. The writing, a lot of the book deals are as bad or worse than the music industry. And I've worked in the music industry for a long time as well. And so that's why you see a lot of writers who are also teachers, you know, who are speakers the way I am, or who are full-time journalists as I've been as well. Because a lot of times books are a labor of love. You know, honestly, those of you who write screenplays and who write plays, screenplays, even theater, I mean, we know, and Chiquita knows, and other folks who are in theater, that's love, you know what I mean? Because we know that actors and actresses and playwrights don't get what they deserve, you know, I feel, you know, which is why you see a lot of playwrights in New York who have actually moved to LA to write for film and TV, because that's actually where a lot of the money is for writers. And so when we talk about publishing, it actually can take on many different forms. But the key thing is, people need to know when you're comfortable, because I don't want to push it. To Veronica's point, is she still here? To Veronica's point, you should only publish stuff when you actually feel comfortable publishing stuff. Does that make sense, y'all?
Yes.
You know what I mean? When you really feel like you're ready to release this thing. Because I mean, it can be re-triggering. When I wrote my autobiography, I felt a sense of freedom and release. But again, I have been going to therapy for years and years and years. That's the thing I need to say. You know, and so you don't want to put something out there and then it hurts you or hurts other people in a certain kind of way. You're like, my gosh, what did I just do here? Any other questions about publishing in any
Kevin,
form?
this is Ritza. I just have a
Hey,
really
Ritza.
quick question about publishing.
Yeah.
Considering the times that we're in right now, do you still notice publishers, maybe now within the last 6-7 months, trying to change a writer's voice? If they are talking about, let's say, social justice or something of their own experience, do you notice that they want to change their voice more so, or leave their voice alone more so now?
Well, that's an interesting question. I published my first book in 1993 when I was very young, and I'm just published the 14th book in 2020. And part of the reason why I went the route I did with this 14th book is because I was with a publisher for the book, and they were trying to change a lot of things that I didn't agree with. And because again, back to Toni Morrison's point, at a certain point, you learn how to edit your own work, but I still have editors. I still have people that I trust read everything that I write in book form. I would take that very seriously. I just think that, I mean, you know, to your question, I had a writer hit me up today saying that the publisher was trying to change the title of her book. And I said, well, how do you feel about the title of your book? She said, well, I love the title of my book. And I said, you have to fight for the title of your book. Writers have to fight for their words. You know what I mean? You got to fight for what you want, because the assumption is that writers don't know anything about the business side of writing and that these folks know everything. I remember when I first started getting published, some of the folks would say to me, well, you know, your audience is this, your audience is that. And I would listen to it. And then I realized I'm a New Yorker. I live in New York City. Most of these folks were publishers in New York. I'm like, I travel the whole country. You've been nowhere. You go to Jersey or Long Island or Brooklyn. You don't know the country. How are you going to tell me who my audience is? Your audience, everyone who's a writer, your audience is anyone who comes to your work. That's your audience. You know what I mean? So I think it's important as you start to get published, you'll know when you come across a good editor because they will enhance your work. And you'll know when you come across an editor who's not good because they will denigrate and make your work suck, or they'll take your voice out of it. I've had editors actually put their voice. I'm like, I don't even talk like that. I don't use words like that.
Right.
And so I think it's important for us to fight for our words. Hold on to it. It's important. Like I wrote a piece earlier this year, a cover story for the Washington Post magazine about Stacey Abrams that y'all can check out. And there was an interesting experience. One editor was wonderful. They got it completely. The second editor, because there was two editors, the second editor was like, well, why is this stuff important about the family? I said, because Stacey Abrams comes from Mississippi, and she has a father and a mother, and they both were active in the civil rights movement. So you cannot understand who Stacey Abrams is without talking about her mother and her father. Does that make sense, you all?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just like when I posted that piece about Frank Sinatra, you cannot understand Frank Sinatra without understanding all the people who are around Frank Sinatra. So after a while, it didn't even matter. In that article is on Facebook called Frank Sinatra Has a Cold. It doesn't matter that Frank Sinatra is not interviewed by the writer. The writer was so excellent at interviewing everyone around Frank Sinatra that you now understand who Frank Sinatra is in a different kind of way. And so, some publications will give you that freedom, or, publishing houses, and some places don't. I fight for creative control of my work always. That's what I'm going to say to y'all. I fight for creative control of my work. I've literally lost thousands of dollars because I'm like, you know what? I sure could use this check right now, but I can't lose my dignity over what you're doing to my piece of art. So I'm taking this back.
Hey, Kim, can I ask you? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Real quick, sorry. This is Angel. So, like, I was into, I have my PhD, and so through that process, you have to unlearn things because you're kind of taught that you don't have control over your writing, and that you don't have any power, and all these other people have power over you and your words, and so like you really are socialized that way, and to try to change and be like, okay, well now I'm in charge and I have my own voice and this is what I want. I just wanted to say like that's something that you really have to train yourself to do because a lot of us were not taught that. And then I just wanted to say this one thing about networking is that, we are our best asset, like this space. And so I really hope that everybody, works to build community and like continues to build community even after this is over. And I want to say that, from my experience with Kevin, that like he's really honest and genuine. Like I think I'm better at networking than I am at writing. So, but like I met Kevin and I latched on to him and like I texted him and like he follows through. And so I would encourage that. But like, like when Veronica says she's from Chicago, I was like, hey, Veronica, I'm in Chicago. Like, we should be friends. Like, that's just me because I just want to hug and love everybody. And so I'm a natural extrovert, but I just want to encourage everybody to like link up with each other. If you find out there's people in your area, then do that. And even if they're not in the area, we have technology. So it would be sad if everything ended when the webinar was over.
So thank you for saying that, Angel. This is not going to end. We're going to continue. And, Angel's point is right. And it's unfortunate. I'm not going to talk about my fellow writers who are quote unquote known writers like myself or established writers as they like to call us. But a lot of us think we're better than people. I don't operate like that. You know what I mean? We're in this together. And so I think that, if you've been blessed to get somewhere in your life, you have a responsibility to help other people. Harriet Tubman theory, period. You know what I'm saying? And so, and I'm honored to be with y'all because I literally have not been a part of a writers group since the 1990s. And so this has actually been teaching me a lot and humbling me in many ways. Y'all can't even imagine just listening to the work that's out there. And so, let's continue to support each other. And what I'll do is not only the webinars we continue on, but also invite some of these writers that have information that I think will be helpful and literary agents to the Facebook group as well, because I do think that this is a ripe opportunity. If y'all are writing plays, if you're writing screenplays, if you're doing books, there's lots of opportunities out there. There's so much more I want to say. We got about 10 minutes. Any other questions?
Kevin, how do you use a blog in an established website in your
website?
In your
No, where? I'm sorry. How
you
do you
have your own .com. I have my own
website.
My website. So how would I use a blog on the website I already have.
Add a page.
You just add a page.
Yeah.
Sarah, you just add a page. But then you got to let us know, let people know that the blog is there, because I see a lot of people who've written brilliant things. Like because I'm a researcher, like I'm sure a lot of us here are. So I find people's blogs. I'm like, but I wish this blog was out there, that other people knew that this great piece of writing actually existed. Because what I also know that a lot of us are not comfortable with self-promotion. I'm not saying we should be narcissistic, but people do need to know that y'all exist. You know, that's important. I mean, Brother Michael Carter is working on a memoir. Hey.
Sorry.
No, don't mute the dog. The dog's cool. It's cool. But I learned that Michael is working on a blog, a memoir, because he mentioned it on LinkedIn. So, you know, you have to talk about what you're doing. Mm-hmm. How many of y'all are uncomfortable even talking about what you do as writers? Wow. How do we change that? How do we, you know, Brother Robert, you asked a question, and I think it was via LinkedIn about, or on Facebook about mentors, but I think we have to actually mentor each other. Okay. How do we network better? How do we get ourselves out there? What, you know, I mean, y'all are brilliant. This is some of the most incredibly thoughtful stuff in these 5 weeks that I've heard in years. I'm keeping it real with y'all. You know what I'm saying? But it's like the world needs to hear it.
You know, part of that though, Kevin, is this.
Mm-hmm.
It's that scarcity. Yes, sir.
Yes,
it's
ma'am.
that, and I say sir and ma'am to everybody, even my students who are obviously way younger than me. But I think a big thing about that is this, is about a scarcity mentality. And that's part of white supremacy culture, with us thinking it's not room for all of us. And it's room for all of us. So sometimes when people don't share, when people don't do certain things, it's because, oh no, I have to keep it to myself. I can't tell this sister about this. Even people, someone else knew about this workshop, didn't tell me about it, but told me that they came to the first one. Then one of my sorority sisters hit me up. She was like, hey, this right up your alley. You need to go to this. So even the thought that something that's free, it's fuck. I mean, very free. $0.99, right? It's free. It's free that you even hoard that. So I think it is some work that we
I love
AF.
We put that on the flyer for next week. Is free as. Can we say it on the flyer next week?
Right, but I think that we have to move beyond the scarcity mentality, because that's part of what I think keeps some people stuck, is thinking that it ain't enough room out here for everybody. It's enough room and space out here for everyone, for all of us. All of us. The last point I wanted to make is, when you have a calling on your life, when you have an anointing on your life, do you. Step out the way of yourself.
Yeah.
And do you.
Yeah, but
because
step out the way of yourself. That's another one. Step out the way of yourself.
The gift will dry up. The gift can be taken away from you if you don't use it. Use the gift. And lastly, Kevin, you will be rewarded tenfold. You didn't need to charge for this, because you're going to be rewarded
I'm not going
tenfold. So whoever said you were supposed to charge for this, fuck out of here on that one. Hashtag FOH. Because the calling and the blessing that's going to come to you, even from this and from the people in this room and what people are getting, is the reward, but you'll also receive it as well. And I'm all for folks getting paid. Don't get me wrong. Cite folks, pay folks. But this was supposed to happen in this season during this pandemic, COVID-19 and COVID-19, exactly how it's happening and unfolded. And you're going to get your money.
Yes.
If I could do a phone call, like a group call to everybody every morning, and maybe a podcast in the afternoon, because I could like listen to Veronica, you know, regularly.
She's amazing.
Kevin?
Because you can't be my therapist.
I got it.
Right.
Is dope. I got to shout out. Hey, Angelina Rivera, I see you from Rutgers University, Jersey, in the building. What's up? We
How
went
are
to
you?
college together. Who else wanted to ask a question? We got like 5 minutes left.
I do want to know.
Excuse me. I wanted to ask you, you said something that has been on my heart for a while about writing, as far as writing and not looking back at the work. Writing as in form of release and just kind of letting it go. And I wasn't sure if that was, I feel like I'm in that part of my process as a writer, because there's moments where I'm mostly a lyricist. and I'll take time to write in bar form and stuff like that. However, when it's free writing form, I won't go back and look at it. And sometimes I wonder how much great material is actually still there, that I should probably go back and look at it. But I guess I wanted to know when, I'm not sure if that's a continuous process of like for you of writing and not looking at it and just letting it go. Or at some point, did you get to a place where you were saying, okay, I'm writing and I'm actively taking the time to look back at my work so I can mine and see what golds I can use for my pieces that I want to work on or for a future piece or anything like that? Or do you understand what I'm at?
Well, I mean, I would say this, the Tupac book is forcing me to go back to the 90s and read all the articles that I did on Tupac. So I do have to go back, and it's really been deep and traumatic because I was there in Vegas when Pac died. So, you know, you can imagine what I'm having to live. But it's going to make it, I have to do it because otherwise the book ain't going to be no good if I can't remember what happened back then and I document it. So I do think what I'm talking about is like when I publish a book, you know, like after I publish the Tupac book, I probably will never read it again, just to be honest about it. And I don't really read any of my books. People will say, Kev, you know, you said this is so-and-so book. I was like, I said that for real? What is that? Some writers do, you know. I just let it go. You know, I don't know why I started doing that. I just do it. But I think what I do say, Clayton, is everything that I've ever written, I have either on paper, typed, on those floppy disks that Lauren Summers and other folks was holding up earlier. I think you should save everything. You know what I mean? On a real simple level, y'all, your archives are valuable. You know what I mean? And it's a record that you were here. You know, you have what we're talking about is people, you know, be it Legera or anyone else here who's a writer, you're creating a body of work. You know, Chiquita, that's a body of work. You know, David, that's a body of work. You know, and it's important. And that's something I think about as a lyricist. I mean, you know, we just celebrated the 80th birthday of John Lennon. I mean, John Lennon is a member of the Beatles and also as a solo artist has a body of work as a songwriter. You know, I was listening to Curtis Mayfield today, body of work as a songwriter. That's you know,
oh my God.
Amy Winehouse only lived to 27, but a body of work in those 27 years as a songwriter. You feel what I'm saying?
Yes, and can I say something on the floppies, on the paper, on the disc? It also, if someone is trying to snatch your work, it also shows that you had depth even then. You didn't just show up and all of a sudden have this spirit. You was always a writer and you always did your thing and you always touched. You didn't just show up and all of a sudden have that spirit.
That's right. That's right.
Does a blog protect your intellectual property? This is Kimberly Jenkins.
I want to recommend to you all, writers, please become very comfortable with the Library of Congress, the U.S. Copyright Office.
Yeah.
Please become very comfortable with the Trademark Office. Please become very comfortable with the National Writers Union, And please, if you're a screenwriter, playwright, write for TV, the Writers Guild. The Writers Guild of America for folks who write plays, write for TV, write for film, Writers Guild of America. There's one on the East Coast, one on the West Coast. National Writers Union, you should definitely become familiar with that website. It goes through a lot of the protections for writers, National Writers Union. What was the first one? A Library of Congress. You know, even if you're just writing a poem, every poem that I write, I always put copyright 2020 Kevin Powell, because I know I'm going to copyright. How many of y'all have had stuff you've written stolen, plagiarized?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but you know what? I take solace, and please take solace in the fact that no one can do it the way you did it. You know, even they jack you, they ain't gonna do it like you did it. But please protect your stuff. That's the business side of it. To Clayton and folks who are in the music game, like I've been in different ways as a music journalist. When I see a lot of artists putting their music on SoundCloud, but it's not protected, which means someone can literally go there and take their music. There's nothing they can do about it. Because I always ask music folks, like, is it registered with? Are you with ASCAP or BMI or CSAT? The three major publishing companies for songwriters / producers, they're like, nah, I'm not with any of them. I'm like, you're about to give away your stuff. I also want to say to y'all, don't ever send stuff to people you do not know. Like people will try to send me their books, their plays, their screenplays. If you do not know these folks, do not send them your work because they can steal your work straight up. You know what I mean? And if you've already done it, just we're going to do a breathing exercise at the end of this. I see LaJara holding her head. I'm talking about literary agents. That's different. I'm talking about literary agents. Okay. What I'm saying, but LaJara, you can still copyright it.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
There's
I
also
was saying I didn't
publishing
know I
people
hadn't
that
done it. That's what I was saying. I haven't done it, but I understood. I was listening to we not doing it.
Right. Go ahead, Angel. I'm sorry. Thank
I'm
you.
sorry. I just want to let people know there's also publishing people that like prey on you. Like, so I had to learn that, like, you know, even as an academic, that like you'll get emails from people who say that they're publishers. Send me your stuff. Do you wanna publish in this journal? Do you want to publish in this and this? Like, do not send these people your stuff. Like, you know, you have to really do your homework and find out if somebody is who they say they are.
Thank you for saying that, Angel. Writers, you should never pay anyone to publish your work. You should never pay any. I see that happen. That's a scam. That is a scam. That's a scam. You should never pay anyone to publish your work. Number two, you know, to Angel's point, this is where I want to bring it back to networking, because if you, like, Angel is my homie, you know what I mean? So she could say, Kev, do you know these people at these publications? I can say, yep, I know this person at Time, this person at Essence, this person at The Root, this person at The Griot. And so this is where the networking comes in, because if you're not in a network, you won't know who are the legitimate people and who are the people who are hustling folks. Does that make sense, y'all?
Make a lot of sense.
You know what I mean? And so, because it is, sadly, you know, we live in a predatory world where people prey on each other, and writers get taken advantage of a lot. Did you want to say something, Michelle? It's 9:02. Are y'all okay?
Yes. Yes.
Chris, can we go to 9:10? To answer any more questions for folks around publishing? I see a lot of questions, actually. Can I answer some of these questions? Can we move these questions, folks, also to the Facebook group, how to get published in the newspaper, how to get published on a website? Yes. Dodie, thank you. I love you, Dodie, for posting all these things, because this is important about things to pay attention to. Because I know a lot of us just don't know. And it's not our fault. We just don't know. It's not like there's a, you know, this wealth of information. Here's what happens to me. I mean, it happens to us. You know?
But I think that it's people of color, though. Like, some of it is, you know, structural and systematic. Like, there's a thing called social capital that white people have, and that they tend to be in the know about some things that a lot of people of color are not. So there is some of that too, the information hoarding on purpose.
But I've also seen it with white writers. I've seen it with all kinds of writers, but folks just don't know. And, you know, my job is just, hey, let's share this information. You know, it's important. I mean, to me, it's no different than Prince. You know, and I love Prince, y'all. Prince made a conscious effort to talk to music artists and saying, this is how the business should be. This is what you need to do. You know what I mean? And I think that that's my job. You know, let's share this information. And the best thank you y'all can give to me is not thank me, but help other writers. You feel me?
Yeah.
Yep. And so
Kevin, I have two questions.
Yep.
It's David.
Hey, David. Hey.
2 questions. I'm not able to save the chat, and I know a lot of information is going through the chat. Is that a possibility?
Hey, and Chris, can y'all just turn your mics on? What are we doing? How can folks see the chats, please? Because I know we're saving them.
I mean, I can see it, but I can't save it.
All you have to do is click on the 3 dots. Yeah. It'll say save chat, and then you can save it.
Yeah, I don't see it. Mine doesn't. I'm on an iPad.
Okay.
I don't know if that's available.
Yeah,
well, how about this?
Can
someone, David, put your email. David, put your email either in the Facebook group or in this chat. Can someone please make a commitment to sending David the full chat, please?
I'll send it to you, David.
This is how we help each other.
And the other question I have is, I do have a lot of floppy disks, and I don't know, is there a media company or somebody who can get information off floppy disks? Because I have no devices that take floppy disks anymore.
What city are you in, David? You're here? Are you in New York, or where are you at?
I'm in New York, Manhattan.
I mean, there's so many digital companies now. Like, you know, anyone who's a New Yorker remembers Ralph McDaniel's Video Music Box. Remember that TV show from back then?
Yeah.
Those who don't know, it's like one of the old, actually probably the oldest continuous hip hop show in the country.
Amen.
Ralph is literally digitizing those big, thick, old school beta tapes right now. So there are companies that exist. What I would recommend is not do it in New York because it'd be mad expensive. We know how it is in New York, but he's getting his stuff digitized at a company in Delaware. This is where the networking comes in. You know what I mean? And so there's companies like that all around the country. It could be in Jersey, it could be in Delaware, it could be in PA, it could be in Ohio. But you all, please, I'm literally at my feet are stuff from the 90s that I still have to get digitized. We got to get off this stuff because you'll lose stuff that can be valuable.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
It's on 44th Street that does it.
Buy an external drive.
44th is a place that does it. That does that. But also, if you belong to the union, like I belong to SAG. They will do it for free there in the computer lab.
Yeah.
You can still buy the external drive as well.
Is that?
Yeah, I posted a link there in the thing from Amazon. You can purchase that external drive and do it yourself on your own.
That's the safest.
It's probably said free as that word. That's important. I mean, just so we can update our stuff too, because we really do need to come into the modern times with this stuff, you know, and back up our stuff with hard drives. And
thank you.
Anyone else is 906? Y'all good?
Yes, I do want to ask a question in the chat too about doing the publishing on your own, because my illustrator helped me with all of that before I went under his, and he was really cool about it. But now, yes, and I figured this is a good growth for me because I can do it on my own, and so just
Who
that
did
guidance.
you do it? Is it through Amazon or who did you do it through, Chiquita?
Yeah, Amazon. I did it through Create Space.
Okay.
Initially, but with Jerry Craft, and I used his publishing company, Mama's Boys.
Yeah.
And he, you know, he's real cool about it. He wasn't like, I need this, I need that. You know, we had our price and he was done. But now that I'm doing it on my own, you know, I do have my own name. It's like, do I have to get that trademark? You know, there's just all those logistics to working on the second book. So I do have that question about how do you actually, I mean, the steps in doing that.
I mean, that's a great question. And if folks, Craig Chapman, who's my brother out in Minnesota, said he can help anyone with backup and transferring floppies, because we do have some folks who are very tech savvy in this group. Thank you, Craig, for even offering that. It's very kind of you. Everyone, I'm going to say this, and I know it may scare some people, but set up an LLC or an INC. That's probably one of the best things you can do as a writer. Set up an LLC or an INC. I run everything through my LLC or my INC. And people are like, well, you're a writer, Kevin. Well, I'm also a businessman. You know, what did Jay-Z say? I'm not just...
You're a businessman.
That's right.
Business.
You know what I mean? Set up an LLC or an INC. It will save you long-term. You know, you have to own your content, because what we're really talking about now, we didn't say this term 20 years ago, but Larissa, Carla, Craig, everyone, what you're doing is content creation.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing. I don't care if it's a poem, it's an essay, a blog, it's a blog space, that's content creation. You own it. You own it. Myself and another gentleman used to run a blog space a couple of years ago called bknation.org. Some of y'all have written for it, used to write for it. And people always ask us, well, who owns the piece? We're like, you own it, because I don't believe in stealing people's work. Like, it's your work. You own your work. You know what I mean? And so this is why I'm really stressing National Writers Union. Like, spend some time on that website and just learn the different things that you can do as a writer business-wise. It's really important to protect ourselves. And when Alyssa mentioned SAG, it's the same thing. If you're in theater in any form, you know, what are those organizations out there that will protect you? You know, what I did as a book author, and Lauren Summers knows that, she's known me since my first book way back in the 90s. I made it a point to learn everything I could about publishing a book. I know how a cover design should go. I know how blurbs should go in the back of the book, how to write copy for the book. I learned how to do marketing, publicity, branding. I know how to set up a book tour. I said, I have to learn this world inside out. If I'm going to be in this world, I should know the world I'm in. Because if I don't know it, then I'll be taken advantage of all over the place. Y'all with me?
Yeah.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
That's important. That's important. I mean, it's great to, it's great to win slam poetry contest, but I'd like to own the slam poetry contest. Real talk.
How important is a publicist when you're starting out? This is KJ. How important is a publicist when you're starting out?
I think the most important thing, folks, to me, and you have to have something to be publicized. You have to, I mean, part of the work, I mean, people have been asking questions about publicists, about literary agents on the chat. I've been kind of trying to read as fast as I can, but you have to have something for people to promote.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You have to have something that's dope that people can promote, that they can support. You can't get around that. If you don't have that, then, you know, does that make sense, you all? There has to be something there tangible that someone can say, I'm excited about this play. I'm excited about this screenplay. I'm excited about this idea. Let's roll with this. Mm-hmm. You know? And so, and I know some of you all have finished books. I mean, you know, that can be a conversation. Like, who are the literary agents out there? You know, we can definitely have that conversation. I don't have an issue with saying, hey, here's my literary agency. They're, you know, they certainly can use folks that are dope, for different genres of writing. But like, you have to have something that you can bring to folks. I wouldn't, and I have a publicist, but I have a publicist because I have a book out. When I don't have a book out, I don't have a publicist, because I'm not going to pay a publicist if I have nothing out. You know what I'm saying? I have something that I actually need to promote right now. And it's important for me to be working with him because he helps to get my stuff in a certain place, but I also am, I learned this from you, Lauren Summers. I'm frugal now. I'm real frugal. You know what I'm saying?
Can I answer Kim's question from the standpoint of a publicist?
Yes.
So as a former book publicist, I
including for me.
Yeah, I was Kevin's publicist for many years. I echo the comment about being frugal, because you could spend a lot of money on a publicist and not really get a lot out of it, especially if you're not ready. But if you have a publishing contract with a major publishing house like a Simon & Schuster or something like that, at that point, it is important to have your own publicist, because the book publishing company's publicist is only going to do so much for you.
That's right. Yeah.
And your publicist will push them to do more and will do all the things that they're not doing. Yeah. But until you get to that point, your better bet is to have your own relationship with media.
I agree.
So if you can position yourself as a journalist, that's going to be the best thing that you can do, because the editors will all already know you. Yeah. And by the way, TV editors and radio editors follow the written word. So if you're published in writing, then you're going to get more attention from those other media outlets.
That's right.
But you're publishing your own work as a journalist is a great way to build those relationships. And that's all a publicist is going to really do for you until you're at that point where you're ready to go to that big next level. You don't really need your own publicist.
Yeah. And
thank you, Lauren.
And to Lauren's point, thank you so much, because that was very powerful, Lauren. It's even if you have a screenplay, a play, a book coming, something like that, I really want to encourage you all, writing an op-ed, a blog, an essay, a short piece, it will just bring you a whole new audience. And those folks will follow you to your work. I can guarantee that. I'm telling you, it will happen. And again, emails, like, do we have an email list? MailChimp, Constant Contact. Do you have an email list of people that support your work? Okay, here's my film coming out. Here's my play coming, here's my children's book coming, whatever it is. Do you have a group of people on text messaging or WhatsApp that you're connected to? Are you on all four? Some of us, I used to hate LinkedIn. I'm gonna keep it real with you. I hated LinkedIn. I was like, it's corny, it's boring. You know what? LinkedIn is dope. I'm like, these are book sales, just like Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. And it's all, you got to work all of it because who's gonna know you? I mean, it was so bad, y'all. I was so anti a lot of stuff, and Lauren knows this, because a lot of times my battles with my publicist, I didn't want to do anything. I was like, I don't really want to be out there like that. Right. And so people would say, oh, it's great that you just published your second book. I was like, but it's my 12th book, because I wasn't telling anybody that I had 12 books. Because I was like, I don't want to be like everybody else and bragging. But you know what? People need to know what you do. That's whatever y'all do, people need to know that it exists. Seriously, there's PhDs in this group. People need to know that there's scholars in this group that are brilliant and also writers. And to Kimberly's point and some of the other folks who are academics, like Bell Hooks is the model to me. 40 books in 40 years. And she made a point of writing books that were academic, but also books that, so-called everyday people, everyday Americans could relate to. So there was balance there. You know what I mean? And she had the courage, and she's had the courage to write in different subject matters. And so I think don't box yourself in either. Like, I love sports, and people think, well, Kev's political. He's about social justice. Well, I'm going to write. I've read a lot about sports, because why would I write about something I'm passionate about? Especially when I also know a lot of people love sports and a lot of people love music. So write about stuff that you actually are passionate about. Someone said they love writing about food. Well, write about food. Lauren has a friend who's been traveling the world, Gretchen, for years, because she's a travel writer. You know what I mean? Write to your passions and publish it.
Hey, Kev, this is Michael. Question: when should you get your book copyright or trademark?
The moment you feel it's done. Well, if you don't have a book deal, I would recommend, as soon as you feel like it's in this final form for you, I would recommend just copywriting it, just protecting yourself.
Okay.
I think that it's important. Do you have a personal editor that's working with you if you don't have a book deal?
No, not yet. I just actually today, I believe, and I'm gonna sleep on this. I'm praying out that I finished writing it. So now just I'm gonna type it all out. And my hope is that I should be done typing it. I give myself 2 weeks tops.
Okay, that's awesome.
And then yeah, I'm gonna look to. I would love to have you review it. You know, if it's feasible for you.
Probably not, but I can refer you to people. I got to deal with this Tupac. That's a monster. Even in death, y'all, Tupac is no joke. Let me tell y'all.
And then
I refer people to you. I can use me as a network to say, Kev, who are the people to write reviews? You know what I'm saying?
Okay, and then I definitely would love to have you. What's it called?
A blurb?
No, you know, like on the back of the book, people, you know, write.
That's called a blurb.
Blurb.
Yes, sir.
I would love to have you. I got somebody else in mind that I would love to have blurb it. So when it's, I guess, after it's done editing, or after I'm done, yeah. Done
Where are you
it
at,
out.
Michael? Which city are you in?
I'm in quiet town, Little Ferry, New Jersey.
Is that South Jersey? Where's that at?
Nah, Bergen County. I'm like right across. Yeah.
Oh, okay, I didn't realize.
Yeah.
Well, you know, even if it's someone who teaches English at a local high school or college that's a friend of yours, let that person be your second set of eyes for what you're writing. You know what I mean?
Good to know. Okay.
You know, whoever, there's someone around you who is a stickler for spelling and grammar. Let that person read. Lauren has done it for me. You know what I'm saying? Let someone who really is serious about writing, you know, correcting stuff and like, hey, you might want to fix this, be that person. You know, I have a friend named Michael Cohen who's read my work. He's probably edited half my books. He was actually a math teacher and a principal, but he loves reading. And so I trust him with my work. You know what I mean? Like, Mike, can you read this for me? You know what I'm saying?
That's good to know. Okay. Thank you.
But also, I think it was Wanda who said, you know, we also have to be serious about improving our own spelling, grammar, vocabulary consistently, you know, because, you know, I know a lot of writers who don't take seriously that stuff. It's important, you know, because back to Toni Morrison, you got to be the first editor for yourself.
Okay. Well, actually, this workshop has been wonderful because every time somebody reads their essay, their poem, it encourages me to get better with my writing. So this workshop has been very, very helpful and very instrumental in me, you know, finishing this this memoir.
I'm so happy to hear that. I mean, I hope it's been helpful. I hope it's been helpful.
Yes.
I spend
stuff offline and think about this workshop. I was looking at Lovecraft Country and I heard the Sonia Sanchez poem Catch a Fire, and I thought about this workshop. Awesome.
This is good. I mean, you know, I want it in the Facebook pages to be something where we're downloading and sharing information that can be useful to anyone who wants to write. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times this stuff, I mean, someone said, I don't know if it was Angel or someone else, a lot of times people don't share this information. They keep it to themselves. You know, they charge, I've seen, what I did do, I looked out there and saw how much people charge for writing workshops. I was like, this is crazy. This is crazy, you know? I mean.
This came at the perfect time.
You know, I'm not trying to be poor, but I'm also saying, you know, you don't have to charge extraordinary amounts of money, you know, to help people. You know what I'm saying? So,
Kevin, this is the Gyra. Question: are we going to talk about, especially for novelists, the art of writing a synopsis?
Yep, we can. We can do that. We can do one of the 3 extra workshops.
Okay. I do have one place. One thing I will recommend. I'll have to find it and send it out for people. But it was from a woman named Susan Denard, and she showed you 11 steps for writing it.
Oh wow! Will you share that on Facebook, Lajara?
I will. The thing that was most unique about it was she did Star Wars in like 350 words.
Wow.
And so it's very good the way she did this. And the funny thing was, when I had to do a synopsis to send my book to Bella Publishing, they wanted a 750-word synopsis of 99,000 words, and I said it could be done in 500 or less. I did it in 387 words using her
That's awesome.
Template.
Will you
But
share
it's a
that
very,
with us?
I will. I have to find it again.
And I saw you, Karika, folks saying they hate Twitter. I understand.
I hate Facebook.
All I'm saying is just use Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. People have their favorites, you know?
Right.
But people need to know that your work exists. Use it to promote your work. You don't get caught up in all the madness out there. Just use it to let people know, hey, I just have this piece. I have this book. I have this play. I have this screenplay. I have this poem I'd like to share that was just published. That's all I'm saying. You don't got to get caught up in all the other stuff.
And actually, Kevin, if it will help, I'm sorry, if I could just say real quickly, is that sometimes if you just do Instagram, then you can link it to Twitter or Facebook. So it'll connect it all to those different things at once. So you can advertise on one, but hit these others that quickly without having to go to each one and retype or redo.
Yeah.
So that's maybe a way so you can still get out further, but not doing all the extra work.
Yeah.
You know, Kevin, on Twitter, a lot of agents and a lot of magazines post submissions. Hey, we're open for submissions. I think and you know, agents are always looking for folks. So again, even if you don't post a lot, there are people you can follow and be informed. Because I think Twitter, if you want to know what's going on in the world, to me, Twitter is the one place you go, because you know what's going on.
Yeah. And I mean, I think, you know, people always ask me a basic definition of writing. There's a lot of definitions, but I do think a writer should be plugged into the world. And I mean, the reality is, you know, social media is where billions of people are at this point. So if we're going to be writers, we kind of, and I was resistant, I'll be honest with y'all, when blogging started, I was like, no, I'm not doing that. Twitter, no, I'm good. Facebook, I'm good. But it is actually helped me to reach more people with the work that I do just by being engaged on social media. You know, I mean, I think that's part of the business practice. And yep, someone just said it. A lot of journalists are on Twitter. A lot of writers are on Twitter. It's a good way to network. I agree. Yeah.
Hi, Kevin. I have a quick question. This is Reagan from San Bernardino, California. I don't have my camera.
Reagan.
Hi. Okay, so thank you to the
Reagan,
person.
before you say anything else, so Chris Lopez and start today. We're going to definitely shut down in 7 minutes, 9:30. We got to go at 9:30, y'all. Is that okay?
Yes.
30 minutes over.
Thank you, Kevin.
All right. Yes, Reagan. I'm so sorry. Please.
Thank you to the person who mentioned, and I'm sorry, I don't know your name, about the synopsis. I have a hard time writing an about me or an intro when I'm sending out manuscripts as someone who's not published or hasn't, you know, as someone who's not published and a newer writer. So I'm wondering if you could include that or give tips on writing, you know, introductions about who we are, because, you know, being a part of this space has helped me with the insecurities of being and calling myself a writer. So now that I'm doing that, I feel, you know, I want to be able to have the tools to just be able to put myself out there and call myself a writer, but knowing how to do that when I'm introducing myself to, you know, publishing houses would be helpful.
Have you been published anywhere yet, Regan? What genre of writings did you say you write in, or did you say?
No, I'm not published, and I like poetry, and I've written a children's book, and about the scarcity, you know, my children's book is called Cornrow Princess, and I've sent the manuscript out to a lot of places, and, you know, I'm just not getting anyone. I've sent it out over 50 times. Well, let me not exaggerate, probably 20, and now that's just about being serious about it. But I'm also feeling, you know, like that title for a children's book isn't grabbing, and I know that it has an audience and it has a place for our little Black girls. And so thank you for also mentioning publishing. Instead of calling it self-publishing, saying, you know, I am publishing. Yeah, because now that's opening my mind up to being able to do that.
I mean, I think one of the conversations, let's make sure we have this conversation on Facebook, and it made me think about what Chiquita was talking about. I just think, put it out. You know, a lot of the most successful writers oftentimes started out on their own. It's no different than what has happened in music. You see people who were independent music artists, they sold X amount of records, and then the next thing you know, Simon Schuster, a major record label, comes calling.
you know, you have to, no matter what writing you do, you have to demonstrate that there's an audience there, you know, and who better to nurture that audience than you? You know what I'm saying? Is it a lot of work? Yeah, it is a lot of work, but it's rewarding because you get the money directly. Unlike, you know, waiting for it and hoping that you get a royalty check at some point. But number two, you know, you get to interface with people. You get to see who that audience is. And even in COVID, I mean, y'all, we know that during COVID, sales have gone through the roof. All of it, people are reading like crazy. And people are looking for diverse material all over the place. And so I just think, you know, you might want to explore what Peter's talking about, which is create space on Amazon for that children's book and just try it. You know, think about that. But we should talk as well, Regan, you know, hit me up in the Facebook group and, you know, we should talk about the process of getting an agent and that kind of stuff. And I'm willing to talk about that with all of y'all. You know, I see y'all listing agencies, literary agencies in the chat room. Yep, Lauren Summers is right. It's easier to get a publisher when you already built a community of supporters. You know, people always say, you know, Robert asked a question a while back, Kev, how did you get your break? The real big break for me, Robert, was Vibe magazine. Quincy Jones started Vibe magazine. I had been grinding for years, nothing, barely, you know.
Yeah.
I had like 4 or 5 jobs. And Vibe magazine opened the doors. The doors have been open ever since then because I was able to take what I had learned from all those little hustling writing gigs, end up writing all those cover stories for Vibe magazine. I've had all kinds of opportunities. I've sold screenplays, I've had book deals, all kinds of stuff. But it was a process, you know.
How old were you when you got into Vibe, Kevin?
We all were in our 20s. We were young.
Yeah.
Quincy Jones, this is us in the 90s. We were all very young because, you know, Quincy Jones, to his credit, was 59 years old, y'all. He understood the power of young people. He's like, y'all are this culture. It's not me, it's y'all. He understood that because he had children who were in our generation, you know what I'm saying? And so, but I also was prepared, Robert. I had been a news reporter for years. I had learned how to be a writer and, you know, and I was reading back to that stuff and honing the craft of writing. I was at the Nuyorican Poets Cafe, shout out to them, doing the poetry thing. So I was totally immersed in the writing world.
All right.
That's the other thing too, like Regan and folks like, you know, Regan, I know there's writers groups around you in Southern California. They exist, but we got to connect to those folks. You know, Carla, you're in the Bay Area, is that right?
I'm in LA.
You're in LA, I'm sorry, Southern California as well. LA is one of our great literary communities, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I want to jump in real quick. I put this in the chat, like, please forgive my misspellings. I was trying to write fast. Regan, teachers, K3 teachers love stuff like that. And you, Kevin, you were talking about getting an audience and that's how you get started. When you write children's books, you can get an audience of teachers. You'll be surprised. They will blow. You won't need a you won't need a publishing house. They'll buy your stuff direct. They're always looking for books for children of color in their classrooms. They're trying to build their libraries. And now with Zoom and all these elementary school teachers trying to keep their students engaged, libraries are closed. You could do a reading of your book on Zoom and then sell it. Like, teachers will buy it. They'll just give you cash. So, and they'll tell their parents about it. So if you could, and there are all kinds of websites and blog sites that teachers have. They have a whole community where they try to tell each other about, oh, I found this new book, or I found this new, there's tons of them. So if you get on something like Edutopia, there's a listing of teachers. Go to your school district and figure out how to get on your any elementary schools websites. Individual schools have websites. Reach out to principals, tell them you're a children's author and you know you want to do a reading for them. I mean, there's you have it made. Like, children's books are so hard, especially children of color. And the title of your book, Princess Korma, oh my gosh, I would eat that up.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to throw that out there real quick. That's just
thank you for that.
And
thank you so much.
Educators, librarians, parents groups, those are natural audiences for writers. We just have to tap into it because we're thinking, you know, a lot of us don't even think about I mean, a lot of my sales have come from educators, you know what I'm saying? It's really important. Honestly, Regan and Kimberly, up until the education of Kevin Powell, I didn't even do an audiobook. I was forced to do an audiobook because I found a group of teachers in Mount Vernon, New York, Westchester County, New York, were saying, we're reading our book to our boys because their reading levels are down. Can you please do an audiobook? That's how I started doing it. I realized I was missing a whole market by not even doing audio.
Wow, yeah.
So it's there, y'all. It's 9:30. We gotta go. Nuyorican Poets Cafe, Chris Lopez, Jason Quinones, Daniel Gallant, Sadea James. Thank y'all. Thank y'all so much for holding on until 9:30. I hope we answered a lot of questions. I hope we shared stuff that was helpful to everybody together.
Definitely.
Yes.
Carl was like, I get it. Mira, yo tengo mucho cansado. But buenas noches, gracias. Do we want to do a quick little just eyes closed?
Yes, you have to breathe us out. Come on, don't breathe us out.
All right, eyes closed. We're gonna breathe in through the nose, out through the mouth. Beautiful session tonight. In through the nose, out. One big one in through the nose together. Out together. All right.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you so much.
Ashay, everybody.
Have a great week.
Thank you.
Love. Hey, tomorrow's my birthday.
Happy birthday!
Take care.
Happy birthday,
Libra. Yo, Libras are dope. Libras are dope. Please share with y'all. Please share on Facebook. Please encourage other folks to come to the page that are writers too. Please.
Sure
Will do. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Love.
Can
Bye-bye.
you share our prompts on the page too?
Yeah, we're sharing prompts on the page too. Well, definitely. Everything's there, Carla. All right,
Okay.
y'all.
Much love, y'all. Thank you.
Love you.